Get comfortable. Wrap yourself in something soft, your favorite blanket, a worn-out hoodie, whatever feels like home. Let the weight of the day fall off your shoulders. Maybe you're lying in bed, maybe you've got a cup of tea beside you. Good. That's perfect. Close your eyes, or don't. Just listen. We're about to slip back, way back, into a world of oil lamps and echoing footsteps on stone. To a time when Rome wasn't just history, but a city alive with breath and silence and the distant sound of the Tiber moving through it all. This isn't a lecture. It's a lullaby made of memory. A slow walk through ancient streets. You're going to fall asleep, not just into rest, but into time itself. So pull your linen a little tighter, let the past settle over you like night, and listen. Let me tell you about a day in the life of a Roman citizen. A day in the life of a Roman citizen. Falling asleep in ancient Rome. The world is still wrapped in velvet shadows. Rome lies beneath a soft hush, interrupted only by the distant creak of a wheel or the chirp of a restless bird. The stars overhead still cling to the night, faintly blinking like the eyes of the gods. Inside your modest domus, a linen sheet rests lightly over your body. Beneath it, the straw-stuffed mattress cradles you with a rough, familiar give. It smells faintly of the oil you used to soften the fibers last month, a mix of pressed olives and old wood. Your ears adjust first. The sounds of the sleeping house speak gently, the soft, rhythmic drip of the courtyard fountain, a faint rustle from the roof where doves have nested. Even the silence has texture here, thick, warm, ancient. You stir. The stone floor calls to the soles of your feet like a cold whisper. Beyond your window, you hear it, the wind stirring the fig tree. Each leaf brushes another like the passing of soft fingers. A faint fragrance reaches your nostrils, earth dust and ripening sweetness. The Tiber murmurs far off, not loud but present, a sleeping serpent beneath the skin of the city. A rooster crows from a neighboring yard. His cry slices the air with sleepy dignity. That sound so familiar, so ancient, signals the end of night's dominion. The Vigiles, Rome's night watch, will soon finish their rounds. One of them passes just outside your walls, the soft clink of his iron-banded torch pole echoing briefly. You sit up slowly. There is no candle yet. Only the first threads of dawn, pulled from the horizon like golden wool. They stretch across the terracotta tiles in quiet procession. Your wife shifts beside you, still sleeping. Her breath rises and falls like the tide. A moment of stillness settles over you. You are Roman. You are alive. You are at the center of the world. You reach for the oil lamp beside the bed, its ceramic body still cool. With flint and patience, the wick catches. A small flame flickers, casting shadows that dance over painted plaster walls. A faded mural, Venus rising from the sea, glows softly in the amber light. This hour, this space belongs entirely to you. You stand, stretching slowly. Your knees pop softly like old hinges. The cool air clings to your skin, raising small bumps along your arms. You walk barefoot across the mosaic floor, your steps light and cautious. One stone is always colder than the others. It surprises you every morning. In the atrium, the impluvium, a shallow pool collecting rainwater, gleams faintly, reflecting the last stars. You pause here, kneeling to splash the cool water on your face. It awakens you further, biting gently at your cheeks, trickling down your neck. The house is quiet, but not still. The coals from last night's hearth are barely glowing, but alive. You take a moment to stoke them, feeding in a few dried twigs. The gentle crackle returns. A door creaks. Your eldest son, Marcus, peeks out from his cubiculum. He's a light sleeper, always has been. You smile and press a finger to your lips. He nods and retreats again, the door closing with a respectful hush. In the kitchen, the amphora of wine sits on its rack. You lift it carefully, the clay cool and smooth in your hands. You pour a little into a shallow cup, add a touch of water from the jar, and drink slowly. It is tart and thin, but it grounds you, tethers you to the day beginning. You hear the sounds of the street faintly now, the slow rumble of a cart, a soft conversation between early risers, the creak of pulley ropes hauling goods upward. Rome stirs beyond your walls. You sit by the window, oil lamp beside you, and gaze out into the city. The light is still blue, not yet golden. Mist clings to the rooftops like memory. Somewhere to the west, over the Janiculum Hill, the sky begins to glow faintly. The crows have begun their calls. From here, you see the silhouette of the Capitoline Hill, the shapes of temples like shadowed teeth in the skyline. The world feels old, immense, and intimate all at once. A cat slinks along the wall opposite you, tail high, silent as a spirit. You nod to it, as if to a neighbor. In Rome, everything is alive. You take out a wax tablet from the shelf near the hearth and sit again. You carve a few notes, a list of errands, a reminder to fix the leaky basin in the courtyard, and a quote from yesterday's forum speech that stayed with you. You don't know if the speaker wrote it or stole it, but it moved you. Virtus in silentio crescit. Virtue grows in silence. You pause, letting those words linger. Outside, the sky has begun to change. You gather your clothes for the day, a clean linen tunic, slightly stiff from the wash. You hold it up to the window. The weaving is uneven, but solid, your wife's work. You admire it briefly, then dress. The belt, leather softened by time, ties at your waist. Your feet slip into worn sandals, their straps familiar against your skin. You move slowly, reverently, not wanting to disturb the hush. You take one last look at your sleeping home. The shelves, the amphorae, the painted walls. The small statuette of your household god stands by the door, its features smoothed from years of touching fingers. You run your hand over its head. Then you open the door. Rome is waking. The vicus outside your door is quiet, but not still. The cobblestones are slick with night dew. A fine mist rises from the drainage channels along the edge of the street, fed by the mountain aqueducts and the restless breath of the Tiber. You step out, pulling your cloak around your shoulders. A sharp wind from the river nips at your cheeks, carrying the scent of damp stone, oil smoke, and faint traces of the city's layered life. Somewhere, a door creaks open. A voice calls gently for a dog. Another slams shut with the finality of sleep. A neighbor, a potter named Vibius, nods to you as he passes, carrying a basket of kiln-dried cups wrapped in linen. He doesn't speak. At this hour, words feel sacred. The eastern sky is brushing color into the air, a soft violet. Hints of rose. You walk slowly, taking in the curve of the rooftops, the silhouettes of statues standing atop distant temples like sentinels. Somewhere, a bundle of pigeons flutters into motion. A beggar sleeps beside the bakery entrance, arms tucked inside his tunic. You pause, place a coin in the folds of his cloth, and walk on. His breathing never falters. You hear the muffled rhythm of a hand mill turning. The baker's wife has begun grinding grain. It is a gentle, circular sound, like a heartbeat made of stone. The scent of bread begins to thicken the air. Charred crust, rising heat, the yeast of living grain. You breathe it in, and it fills something hollow in your chest. The city is awakening in waves. First the smells, then the noises. Far off, a horse whinnies. Closer, someone coughs through a doorway. Then, laughter. Brief, tired, human. This moment belongs to the in-between. Rome is neither asleep nor fully alive. It exhales, then inhales. You continue toward the square where water is drawn, your footsteps echoing softly. You rise, stretch, and adjust your belt. The day is ready to begin. Outside, the light sharpens. You hear more voices now. A wheelbarrow creaks. A vendor sings a short melody to test his throat. The bakery is sending steam into the sky. You step into the street again, joining the quiet stream of citizens moving toward their duties. Rome breathes. You walk the vicus slowly, passing doorways now flung open to the day. Women sweep thresholds with bundled twigs, clearing dust and blessings alike. The scrape of bristles on stone is rhythmic, almost meditative. One of them glances up and greets you with a nod. You return it, respectful. This simple task is sacred. Old men sit on low stools, wrapped in worn cloaks, talking softly about the weather in their joints. Their hands move as they speak, describing the ache in a knee, the bend of a vine, the rise of a wave long past. Their lives are etched in gesture. You hear the rattle of dice from within a nearby taberna, someone eager for luck before work. Inside, two young men crouch over a makeshift table, arguing whether Fortuna or Mercury should be blamed for yesterday's losses. You smile at their passion. Even in gambling, Rome debates the gods. Down the hill, where the inslee press closer like a forest of brick and wood, you pass the butcher setting up his stall. His son is hanging cuts of pork from a wooden beam while the man sharpens his blade with methodical strokes. The rasp of metal on stone slices through the morning stillness like a promise. He nods to you. You nod back. The air is thicker now, saturated with fresh scents, charcoal smoke, warm milk, yeast, the iron tang of blood, and beneath it all the faint sourness of yesterday's refuse. It is not clean by modern measure, but it is real. It is Rome. You've grown to love its honesty. Rome does not pretend. You pause to watch a street performer rehearse with a lyre, plucking a soft tune as he hums the verse of an old love song. He plays for no one, yet he plays as if for the gods themselves. His dog sleeps beside him, twitching in a dream. Children begin to fill the alleyways like rivulets of joy. Their tunics are half-tied, sandals mismatched. They shout half-formed sentences and chase one another around the stone corners, laughing with abandon. One of them, a girl with a garland of ivy on her head, stops to tie her sandal, then grins at you as you pass. You return a wink. In their play, the Republic is reborn. A group of slaves bearing baskets walks past you in a slow, practiced rhythm. Their tunics are coarse and dull, but their eyes sharp and alert. One carries a goat, its legs bound and its eyes wide. Another balances a bundle of linen on her head like an amphora. Their master's needs are varied. Laundry, meat, sacrifice. Each has a purpose. You exchange greetings with a cloth merchant who is opening the shutters of his shop. His wife is arranging bolts of dyed wool, some Tyrian purple, others simple off-white, many dyed with madder root to a dull crimson. The colors catch the growing light like fire trapped in fabric. A breeze causes the cloth to ripple as if stirred by divine breath. Near the Compita, the neighborhood shrine at the street crossing, someone has already lit incense. You catch the scent of pine resin and crushed laurel as it curls into the morning air. A boy kneels briefly before it, pressing his fingers to his lips, then to the altar stone. You do the same as you pass. There's no need for elaborate words. These spirits prefer devotion over ceremony. Offerings lie there, a fig, a coin, a piece of bread. Protection is a daily transaction. A lictor passes in full regalia, his bundle of rods slung across his shoulder. He glances down each alleyway, measuring the quiet like a mason measuring stone. His pace is slow but firm. Peace must be seen to exist. You stop to speak with Flavia, a widow who sells pulses and lentils. Her stall is always neat, her baskets arranged like an offering to order. She gives you a sample of roasted chickpeas, warm and salty, dusted with cumin. "My son left for the coast," she says. "He's to work on the docks in Ostia." You offer her a kind word, ask if she's heard from him. "Not yet, but I dreamt of dolphins last night. I take it as a sign." You smile. The Roman world is full of signs, for those who know how to see them. You buy a small packet of lentils. She ties it in a twist of cloth and presses it into your hand like a blessing. As you walk away, she begins to hum, a tune her grandmother sang when the fields were heavy with harvest. Across the way, a group of freedmen gathers near a cistern. They pass around a jug of water and speak in whispers. One gestures toward the Aventine, murmuring about new grain prices. The others nod slowly, each calculating what it might mean for their families. The clang of metal on stone rings out behind you. A blacksmith's apprentice is fanning coals with a goatskin bellows. Sparks dance upward into the air like fireflies trapped in mourning. His master inspects a half-forged plowshare, muttering under his breath about poor iron from Noricum. The workshop glows like a small forge of Vulcan himself. You pass a domus with a painted entryway. Faded frescoes of Bacchus and vines twist above the lintel. The owner, a merchant of wines, steps out dressed in fine wool, rubbing his eyes. He smells of lavender water and exhaustion. He waves lazily. You return the gesture. He is headed toward the harbor, no doubt. Above you, laundry sways on ropes stretched between windows. Tunics, cloaks, undergarments, each catching the sunlight, each a flag of quiet survival. A young woman leans out a window, pouring a bucket of water into the gutter below. She calls to someone inside in Greek. A pair of city slaves pushes a cart piled with amphorae, the clay vessels clinking softly. You step aside to let them pass. One mumbles thanks. The clay jars bear the mark of Hispania, olive oil, thick and dark. You make your way to the nearby macellum, the covered market. Inside, voices rise louder, not shouting but layering. Questions, prices, gossip, a chorus of commerce. The smell of brine and citrus is sharp and urgent. Fishmongers arrange their morning catch. Fresh eels slither in baskets. Sardines glisten like silver coins. A small octopus glistens on the marble slab, tentacles spilling like spilled ink. You greet one of the vendors, a Gaul with an easy smile and hands that smell of salt. He offers you a sliver of cured mullet. You accept. A man selling wax tablets boasts of fine grain and smooth finish. You test one. Its surface unblemished, its scent faintly sweet, tinged with beeswax. You consider buying it for Marcus. The vendor offers to engrave his initials for a few extra sestertii. Nearby, an old Greek sells herbs from a wooden tray. He shows you a stalk of fennel, then leans in and whispers, "Good for the stomach, or for courage, or for dreams." You smile, buy a small pouch, and thank him in his native tongue. He bows, pleased. Your arms now hold the weight of your city, a sack of lentils, a wax tablet, a sprig of fennel, a few coins lighter. Small things, but meaningful. You step outside again. The street is fully awake now. Sandals slap against stone. A litter carried by 4 slaves turns onto the road. Inside, a patrician lady adjusts her veil. She looks out briefly, then disappears behind a curtain. Her guards follow silently. You recognize the scent of unguentum, perfume made from roses and myrrh. It lingers in the air like the ghost of a kiss. A priest walks by, robed in white. His eyes are closed, lips moving in silent prayer. He walks barefoot, his toes bleeding from devotion. No one disturbs him. Even the vendors lower their voices. You pause once more at the edge of the forum's approach. The sun has cleared the rooftops now. Rome is alight. Marble columns catch the rays and shine like polished bone. Pigeons flutter from statues. The scent of garum, bread, and burning oil weaves through the wind. You stand still. This is your city. It is loud and dirty and holy. It is cruel and beautiful. It is home. And so you walk into the day. The forum stretches before you like the open palm of Jupiter himself, a grand stage where every voice, belief, deal, and decree finds its echo. You have walked these stones before, countless times, but each return carries weight. It is not only the center of the city, it is the soul. Marble columns rise like the trunks of sacred trees. The Temple of Saturn's shadow stretches long across the paving stones, where the oldest coins of Rome were once stored. You can almost hear the murmur of ancient prayers layered beneath the present noise. Vendors are already setting up for the day. Cloth awnings flap in the morning breeze. Tables of trinkets, loaves of bread, oils, amphora, and scrolls begin to multiply. Here, a man sells pigments crushed from lapis and ochre. There, a woman arranges jewelry copied from Etruscan designs. Their stalls are humble, but they hold the ambitions of generations. You walk slowly, letting the rhythm of footfalls and conversations surround you. A child tugs at your tunic. Sesterce for a singer? But is pulled away by a stern grandmother before you can respond. A senator passes near, draped in his bright white toga with the purple stripe of his rank. His sandals are clean, and his slaves trail behind like shadows. His eyes do not meet yours, but you nod anyway. The presence of the Republic lives in these glances, in the quiet ritual of respect. You make your way to the rostra, the great platform where orators have stood to move the city's heart. The bronze beaks of captured enemy ships glint dully in the light. Already a small crowd gathers around a speaker, not an official one, but a man with fire in his voice. He speaks of the price of grain, of shipping delays at Ostia, of corruption in provincial tax collectors. He raises his arm and quotes Cicero, his voice echoing against the columns. "Civis Romanus sum," he cries. "I am a Roman citizen, and so are you." The crowd applauds, half out of agreement, half out of hunger for spectacle. You linger, then move on. You stop to admire a statue. Marcus Agrippa, arm outstretched, commanding unseen legions. There is a pigeon perched on his head. You chuckle softly. Even Rome's gods cannot escape the birds. Nearby, a group of Vestal virgins sweeps the steps of Vesta's temple. Their movements are graceful, their faces serene. The sacred fire burns within, tended without fail for centuries. You bow slightly as you pass, a gesture as old as the stones themselves. Across from them, a pair of men argue near the Basilica Aemilia. You can't hear the words, but you recognize the posture of a contract dispute. One hand extended, the other clutched over the heart. A scribe nearby dips his stylus into ink, recording proceedings as they unfold. The law, like the gods, must never sleep. You decide to enter the Basilica Julia, where more formal legal cases are being tried today. Inside, the vast hall echoes with the measured cadence of Latin argument. A magistrate sits atop a raised platform, flanked by two clerks. Before him stands a man pleading his case, a dispute over inheritance. His voice trembles with both anxiety and pride. The magistrate's gaze is unblinking. His response is brief, but you sense it carries the weight of decades. Outside, a beggar sits beside the door. He is missing 2 fingers. You drop a coin into his bowl. He murmurs thanks in Latin and then quietly in Punic. His accent lingers from wars long past. You begin to feel the day's weight on your shoulders, not fatigue, but a fullness. The city has surrounded you completely. You cross paths with an Egyptian merchant, his robes flowing, a necklace of blue beads at his throat. He gestures toward a tray of spices and dried lotus pods. He smells of frankincense. From Alexandria, he says, tapping a clay jar. For dreams. You decline, but he smiles anyway, his teeth bright against the early shadow. Nearby, a troop of young boys rehearses a declamation, each taking turns reciting lines of Virgil. One forgets his passage, blushes, then starts again, louder. Their tutor claps his hands and corrects their cadence. At the edge of the forum, you pause again, turning to look back. The shadows have shortened. The marble gleams. Voices rise and fall in rhythmic exchange. It feels like the sea, always moving, always alive. A fruit vendor offers you a fig, warm from the morning sun. You accept, biting into its sweetness. He doesn't ask for payment. You look like you needed it, he says. You smile, thank him, and walk on. The city begins to shift toward midday. Vendors call louder, cloaks are removed, the scent of cooked lentils and cumin fills the air. You feel the hunger building, but it is not yet time. You turn away from the forum now, your heart steady, your steps light. You've seen your city in full chorus. You carry it in your bones. There is much more to come today. But for now, you walk in silence. The eternal cities sing. The city breathes, and so do you. The forum, nestled like a basin between the Capitoline and Palatine hills, doesn't just await, it beckons. You can already hear its murmur even from your narrow side street. A low hum, a collective pulse of sandals on stone, voices in debate, and the cries of vendors preparing for another day. You follow the slope of the Vicus Tuscus, past ivy-covered walls, frescoes half faded by time and smoke, and the occasional glint of polished bronze from a newly erected statue. The smells begin to mix, fresh bread from a nearby thermopolium, roasted chickpeas, sweat, and the metallic tang of worked copper. The forum reveals itself not with a dramatic turn, but slowly, organically. Arches, columns, then people. So many people. To your left, the Temple of Saturn stands like a stoic ancestor, casting its morning shadow down the central square. A priest, dressed in white, tends to the altar. You don't hear his words, but you can smell the myrrh. A small group stands silently with him, merchants perhaps, offering thanks for successful voyages. One lays a coin wrapped in cloth at the foot of the column. Another bows and departs quickly. Children run past, chasing a ball made of stitched pig bladder. One slips and scrapes his arm, but his friends laugh and help him up, and they vanish between rows of traders unloading crates from carts. The carts creak, wheels groan, donkeys snort. Life unfolds. You pass under the arch of Septimius Severus. A Syrian couple stops to admire the carvings, whispering to one another in their native tongue. The husband's hand rests on the stone like he's touching a piece of his future. A nearby artist sketches the arch on parchment, pausing to shade in the legs of the carved soldiers. You make your way toward the rostra, not for speeches, but to listen. A philosopher, draped in a blue-dyed pallium, argues with a handful of students. The topic? Whether virtue is best pursued through civic life or contemplation. His voice is sharp, clipped, deliberate. One student disagrees, his Latin still clumsy. He is young, eager. The others nod in quiet approval. Next to them, a bearded man preaches about a different path entirely. You catch references to the cult of Mithras, the sun, the bull, rebirth. His words are whispered to a few close listeners. Behind him, a woman in Egyptian robes lights a small offering of cedar chips and wine, muttering to Isis for the health of her brother. Then, the loud clang of metal. A blacksmith, sweating through his tunic, beats a small blade into shape on a traveling anvil. Children gather around. One whispers, "He makes swords for the army." The blacksmith grins and doesn't correct him. He holds the blade to the sky for a moment, letting the sunlight dance on the edge. A line forms at the tabularium, Rome's great archive. Citizens queue with scrolls in hand, petitions, requests for birth registrations, land records. Bureaucracy in its purest form. A scribe, perched behind a desk of dark walnut, beckons the next forward. Behind him, an assistant with inky fingers stacks clay tablets like fragile bricks. Nearby, a pair of men argue about property. One jabs at a map on a wax tablet, the other folds his arms. They don't notice the priest of Mercury walking past, ringing a small silver bell to gather the pious. The merchant behind them curses quietly as an amphora slips and cracks. Oil stains the marble in a slow amber puddle. To your right, a woman sells wax figures, small effigies used in private rites or curses. She wears bells on her ankles. You ask her about the figures, and she explains, "For luck, for love, for revenge." You buy one shaped like a lion, unsure why. Further down, a Nubian storyteller gathers children in a semicircle. His voice rises and falls with drama, retelling tales of far-off deserts, of jackals and golden rivers. Even the nearby vendors lean in to listen, caught by the cadence of the unfamiliar language. You slip into the shade of the portico of the De Consentes, where Rome's 12 major gods are honored. You sit on a bench, watching. Two lovers, clearly nervous, clasp hands in the shadow of Minerva's column. A beggar nearby sleeps with a dog curled at his side, both of them unbothered by the swirl of activity around them. A group of actors rehearses lines from Plautus. It's a comedy, something about a slave pretending to be a noble. The lead flubs his line and everyone laughs. Even the birds on the temple roof seem amused. An older woman offers herbs from a woven tray, thyme, rue, and rosemary wrapped in cloth. "Good for the nerves," she says. "Boil it before sleep." She gives you a sprig without asking for coin. A flute player performs a mournful tune, and a young widow pauses to listen. Her eyes are red. No one asks why. Just before leaving, you stop at a public notice board. Fresh sheets of papyrus are nailed up. News from Britannia, unrest among the tribes, a proclamation from the aedile regarding sewer maintenance, and an announcement for the next gladiatorial games, 5 pairs of fighters, 3 executions, and a hunt featuring ostriches. As you turn to go, a boy holding a basket of doves brushes past you. He's headed for the Temple of Juno. He looks barely 10 years old. His tunic is patched but clean. The birds flutter as if they know. A craftsman kneels on the ground, etching letters into a new plaque. Each tap of his chisel is precise. You read the inscription, an epitaph for a woman named Livia, beloved mother and wine merchant. Someone has left a small amphora beside it. At a food stall, a group of dock workers drinks watered wine and jokes loudly in Oscan. Their laughter bounces off the stone like it's part of the city's foundation. You hear the phrase again, "Rome never sleeps. Rome just shifts its weight." You step back into the Vicus. The forum recedes behind you. Not silence, just distant, a part of you now. You are filled, not just with sound, but with memory, with presence. The street ahead smells of honey and ash. You follow it. You follow the slope of the Vicus Tuscus past ivy-covered walls, frescoes half-faded by time and smoke, and the occasional glint of polished bronze from a newly erected statue. The smells begin to mix. Fresh bread from a nearby thermopolium, roasted chickpeas, sweat, and the metallic tang of worked copper. The forum reveals itself not with a dramatic turn, but slowly, organically. Arches, columns, then people. So many people. To your left, the Temple of Saturn stands like a stoic ancestor, casting its morning shadow down the central square. A priest dressed in white tends to the altar. You don't hear his words, but you can smell the myrrh. A small group stands silently with him, merchants, perhaps, offering thanks for successful voyages. One lays a coin wrapped in cloth at the foot of the column. Another bows and departs quickly. Children run past, chasing a ball made of stitched pig bladder. One slips and scrapes his arm, but his friends laugh and help him up, and they vanish between rows of traders unloading crates from carts. The carts creak. Wheels groan. Donkeys snort. Life unfolds. You pass under the arch of Septimius Severus. A Syrian couple stops to admire the carvings, whispering to one another in their native tongue. The husband's hand rests on the stone like he's touching a piece of his future. A nearby artist sketches the arch on parchment, pausing to shade in the legs of the carved soldiers. You make your way toward the rostra, not for speeches, but to listen. A philosopher, draped in a blue-dyed pallium, argues with a handful of students. The topic, whether virtue is best pursued through civic life or contemplation. His voice is sharp, clipped, deliberate. One student disagrees, his Latin still clumsy. He is young, eager. The others nod in quiet approval. Next to them, a bearded man preaches about a different path entirely. You catch references to the cult of Mithras, the sun, the bull, rebirth. His words are whispered to a few close listeners. Behind him, a woman in Egyptian robes lights a small offering of cedar chips and wine, muttering to Isis for the health of her brother. Then, the loud clang of metal. A blacksmith, sweating through his tunic, beats a small blade into shape on a traveling anvil. Children gather around. One whispers, "He makes swords for the army." The blacksmith grins and doesn't correct him. He holds the blade to the sky for a moment, letting the sunlight dance on the edge. A line forms at the tabularium, Rome's great archive. Citizens queue with scrolls in hand, petitions, requests for birth registrations, land records, bureaucracy in its purest form. A scribe, perched behind a desk of dark walnut, beckons the next forward. Behind him, an assistant with inky fingers stacks clay tablets like fragile bricks. Nearby, a pair of men argue about property. One jabs at a map on a wax tablet, the other folds his arms. They don't notice the priest of Mercury walking past, ringing a small silver bell to gather the pious. The merchant behind them curses quietly as an amphora slips and cracks. Oil stains the marble in a slow amber puddle. To your right, a woman sells wax figures, small effigies used in private rites or curses. She wears bells on her ankles. You ask her about the figures, and she explains, for luck, for love, for revenge. You buy one shaped like a lion, unsure why. Further down, a Nubian storyteller gathers children in a semicircle. His voice rises and falls with drama, retelling tales of far-off deserts, of jackals and golden rivers. Even the nearby vendors lean in to listen, caught by the cadence of the unfamiliar language. You slip into the shade of the portico of the De Consentes, where Rome's 12 major gods are honored. You sit on a bench, watching. Two lovers, clearly nervous, clasp hands in the shadow of Minerva's column. A beggar nearby sleeps with a dog curled at his side, both of them unbothered by the swirl of activity around them. A group of actors rehearses lines from Plautus. It's a comedy. Something about a slave pretending to be a noble. The lead flubs his line and everyone laughs. Even the birds on the temple roof seem amused. An older woman offers herbs from a woven tray, thyme, rue, and rosemary wrapped in cloth. "Good for the nerves," she says. "Boil it before sleep." She gives you a sprig without asking for coin. A flute player performs a mournful tune, and a young widow pauses to listen. Her eyes are red. No one asks why. Just before leaving, you stop at a public notice board. Fresh sheets of papyrus are nailed up. News from Britannia, unrest among the tribes. A proclamation from the aedile regarding sewer maintenance, and an announcement for the next gladiatorial games. 5 pairs of fighters, 3 executions, and a hunt featuring ostriches. As you turn to go, a boy holding a basket of doves brushes past you. He's headed for the temple of Juno. He looks barely 10 years old. His tunic is patched but clean. The birds flutter as if they know. A craftsman kneels on the ground, etching letters into a new plaque. Each tap of his chisel is precise. You read the inscription, an epitaph for a woman named Livia, beloved mother and wine merchant. Someone has left a small amphora beside it. At a food stall, a group of dock workers drinks watered wine and jokes loudly in Oscan. Their laughter bounces off the stone like it's part of the city's foundation. You hear the phrase again, "Rome never sleeps." Rome just shifts its weight. You step back into the vicus. The forum recedes behind you, not silence, just distant. A part of you now. You are filled, not just with sound, but with memory, with presence. The street ahead smells of honey and ash. You follow it. The vicus opens like a scroll being unrolled, revealing layers of life with every step. The buildings rise around you in mismatched grandeur, modest tabernae beside aging patrician homes, faded frescoes beside marble facades. Laundry stretches across the alleyway above like colorful sails between masts, drying in the soft morning sun. A soft breeze makes them billow slightly, casting dancing shadows on the ground. To your left, a baker slaps dough into shape, dust swirling in golden clouds. His arms are corded with muscle, his face streaked with flour and heat. The scent of rising bread, honey, and melting cheese seeps into the cracks of the day. A slave boy turns a spit slowly over embers as a bird roasts, tiny bones cracking as the juices hiss. You walk slowly, drawn by rhythm more than destination. A fruit seller calls out in a voice like gravel soaked in wine, praising his plums and oranges as the sweetest in the city. A mother with 3 children haggles fiercely over dates. One child tugs at her sleeve, pointing at a fig tart on the edge of the display. Past them, a young scribe scratches notes into a wax tablet while sitting cross-legged on the stone curb. He looks up only briefly as you pass, then resumes writing, lips mouthing words as if in silent rehearsal. Perhaps a letter, or a poem, or a debt. You pause briefly at a shrine built into the wall, a lararium devoted to local spirits. It is small, barely larger than a cupboard, but intricately decorated with ochre and charcoal. Someone has left fresh wine, a crust of bread, and a posy of violets. You touch the doorframe lightly and offer a quiet thought, your own breath a kind of incense. Around a corner, 2 older men sit beneath an awning, playing latrunculi with small carved stones. Their conversation is soft and repetitive. One grumbles about his joints, the other about a neighbor's singing parrot. Neither seems to care who wins. You cross a plaza where a small group practices fencing with wooden gladi. Their movements are stiff but focused. A short instructor, bald and thick-armed, shouts corrections. No! Step with your heel, not your toe! Again! A small dog runs between their legs, narrowly dodging a wild swing. Beyond them, a man with parchment and charcoal offers to sketch passers-by. He has a few rough portraits nailed to a wooden frame, catching the attention of a bored-looking equestrian who dismounts and adjusts his sash. You hear him mutter, "Make me look younger." Further along the street, the crowd grows denser. A philosopher on a wooden crate draws a circle in ash with his toe. Around him, a ring of citizens listens. What is freedom, he asks. Is it the absence of chains or the presence of choice? Someone laughs. Another scoffs. But they stay. You step aside as a cart loaded with amphorae rumbles past, the wheels thudding like a heartbeat. A slave drives the mule, muttering quietly, coaxing it forward. The cart bears the emblem of a wine merchant from Campania. You stop again as the sun strikes a building's wall just right, revealing a mural, nearly faded but still visible. It depicts a feast, lounging figures, heaps of food, and a servant pouring wine into a glass bowl. The colors are pale now, but you imagine what they once were. Laughter, music, spilled drink, the echo of life. A little farther, the path turns downhill. The bathhouse is not yet visible, but you feel its presence. Warmth radiates from the stone beneath your feet. Steam creeps upward from grated vents, and the sound of water trickling through aqueduct-fed channels grows stronger with each step. You are nearly there, but Rome is in no hurry, and neither are you. A turn, a slope, a breeze carrying warm mist, and at last the domed roof of the local bathhouse rises into view. It's not one of the grand public complexes like Caracalla's or Agrippa's, but rather a neighborhood facility, clean, welcoming, bustling. Its walls are etched with faded frescoes of nymphs, dolphins, and pastoral hills, curled slightly with time and steam. At the threshold stands a familiar figure, Gaius, your friend, sometimes philosopher, sometimes gambler. He raises a hand when he sees you and grins through a smear of fig jam at the corner of his mouth. By all the gods, you walk slower than a tortoise blessed by Saturn, he says, tossing a crust of bread to a waiting pigeon. Come, I've already bribed the doorkeeper with sweetbread. Inside, the first chamber greets you with warm air scented with olive oil and myrrh. The atrium is lit by sunlight slanting through the oculus above, turning the rising steam into golden ribbons that drift lazily past statues of Venus and Hercules. You both disrobe and pass into the apoditerium, where niches in the wall hold towels and sandals. A young attendant offers you a small bottle of perfumed oil, cheap but effective. He barely looks at you. The bathhouse sees all kinds. You step into the tepidarium. The warm floor soothes your feet, and the air is thick, humid, and comforting. Around you, men recline on marble benches, discussing politics, reciting poetry, or simply listening to the gentle splash of water in the basins. Gaius is already mid-rant, and I told him, no man who salts olives like that deserves a spot in the Senate. His voice echoes off the tiles. A few bathers laugh. Nearby, an elderly merchant tells a younger man about tariffs on Syrian glass. A former soldier soaks his feet in a basin while recounting the siege of Masada to a wide-eyed boy. The child is his grandson. You sit quietly, absorbing it all, the voices, the steam, the soft gurgle of the hypocaust beneath the floor. There's no rush. After some time, Gaius claps you on the shoulder. To the caldarium. We boil, then we breathe. The hot room hits you like a curtain. Thick heat, the hiss of water on stone, and the sharp scent of eucalyptus. Your skin tingles immediately. Slaves ladle steaming water over stones, creating waves of vapor. A group of athletes groans in unison as they stretch on the tiled floor. You lower yourself into the plunge pool, carefully, slowly, with the reverence of someone approaching a sacred rite. The heat settles into your bones. Here, conversation slows, thoughts melt. A man nearby hums an old nursery tune. Another whistles birdsong. You close your eyes, feeling the city peel away. It is still there. Its noise, its demands, but softened, distant. This too is Rome. Not just marble and iron and law, but leisure, intimacy, a brief forgetting. Eventually, Gaius rises. Let's take the cold. My mind is cooked. You walk, dripping, into the frigidarium. The cold bites at your skin like a playful dog. You plunge into the pool, gasping, then laughing. Then laughing. It is shock and relief and rebirth all at once. A few others cheer. One older man lets out a victorious yell that echoes against the domed ceiling. You emerge cleansed, physically and otherwise. The attendant offers towels. You rub yourself dry under a mural of Neptune guiding dolphins across a stylized sea. Dressed again, you and Gaius step outside. The sun is brighter now, climbing toward its midday throne. The streets are louder. A vendor pushes a cart of steaming chestnuts. A group of women passes, discussing a wedding planned for next week. Gaius turns to you. Food next? Or are you returning to the world of honest labor? You smile. Let's walk a while longer. And so you do. Your feet know the way, even if your mind is still adrift in steam and song. The warmth of the bath clings to your skin like a fine robe, and each breath tastes of clarity. Rome hums brighter now. Not hurried, not frantic, but fuller, its appetite awake. You and Gaius wander through a narrow arcaded street, the morning sun slicing between columns like golden blades. The stalls are open wide now. The smells are dizzying. Grilled onions, honey-soaked pastries, salted mackerel drying in the light. A baker slaps a fresh panis quadratus onto a wooden board and nods toward you. Gaius purchases 2 loaves and breaks one open with a satisfied grunt. The inside steams like volcanic earth. He hands you half without a word. The bread is chewy, faintly sour, dusted with ash. Perfect. You pause at a cheese seller's stand. Wheels of goat cheese, some wrapped in fig leaves, others in brine. You sample one rubbed with herbs. It tastes of thyme and smoke. The vendor gestures to a cask of spiced wine chilled in an earthen jar buried in ice from the Apennines. The price is steep. You decline, but remember it. Children crowd a sweet stall. Fig cakes, candied dates, sesame bars in neat rows. One boy begs his mother for a honey biscuit. She relents. His joy is a small Roman victory. The street opens into a market square, Marcellum style, with awnings stretched taut overhead. Metal clangs from the smithy, hammers on copper. A fishmonger's stall reeks gloriously of the sea. Eels slither in a tub, octopus hangs by their limbs. A matron selects a red-scaled mullet with surgical precision. A Syrian merchant displays bolts of dyed cloth, deep blues, desert reds, soft golds. Gaius admires a sash. For my sister's name day, he says. He haggles gently, knowingly. It's a dance. Music rises. A lyre, delicate and wistful. You follow the sound to a small courtyard where a young musician plays beneath a laurel tree. A few listeners sit nearby, an elderly man with a cane, a young woman feeding crumbs to pigeons, two lovers sharing a grape cluster. You sit too. Not for long. Just enough. Gaius remembers a promise he's due at his uncle's villa beyond the Esquiline. He clasps your hand, presses the heel of his palm to his chest, and departs. Alone again, you walk slowly past a bookseller's stall. Scrolls labeled in neat Greek and Latin script. Homer, Cicero. A few small works by unknown authors, hopeful, dusty. You thumb through one. The parchment is warm from the sun. Before you go, you stop to watch a mime troupe rehearse. No words, only motion. Exaggerated gestures, comic pauses, gasps from the gathering crowd. A girl in a faded green tunic mimics an old senator so perfectly that even an off-duty guard chuckles. For a moment, everyone is the same, laughing, pausing, forgetting rank or role. You turn from the market, a bit heavier with bread, memory, and sun. Rome continues behind you, but you are part of it now, its rhythm stitched into your sandals, its scent on your skin. The day stretches ahead, full of errands and encounters and accidents yet to unfold. But for now, the world is warm and full. You walk eastward now, along the edge of the Suburra. The crowd thins slightly, replaced by more solemn rhythms. The smells shift, from sweet pastries and salted fish to parchment, ink, laurel, and leather. This district hums with purpose. You pass a young girl reciting poetry to her tutor in a narrow courtyard. Her Latin is impeccable. Her voice rings with the cadence of Cicero's teachings, yet her small hands fidget with her sash as she glances nervously at the street. A slave balances a stack of scrolls nearby, one teetering dangerously with each of his steps. You steady it as you pass, earning a grateful nod. You approach the domus of your cousin Marcia, a widow with two sons and a mind sharp as a dagger. The door is unlatched. She greets you with a raised brow and a kiss to each cheek. I hope you've brought sense. I've none left to give, she says, motioning you inside. A slave offers a tray of warm almond cakes. You take one and feel the crunch of crushed pine nuts under your teeth. Her home smells faintly of lemon oil and baking clay, a calm oasis tucked between the thrum of Rome's streets. The domus is modest but well kept. The atrium smells faintly of lavender and vinegar from the freshly scrubbed floors. Her sons, Tullus and Quintus, are bickering over a carved wooden horse. She sends them outside with a stern look and a fig apiece. You sit across from her at a low table, the surface worn smooth by years of family negotiations. She lays out two scrolls. Land disputes. Your family has claim to an olive grove near to Tiber, contested now by a rival clan. You read the contracts carefully, noting wax seals, witness marks, and a suspiciously recent date on a boundary clause. You trace a line with your finger. They moved the marker, you say. That's what I told the last idiot who came by, Marcia replies. He thought I was talking about vegetables. You laugh, though not loudly. She pours 2 cups of cold barley tea flavored lightly with mint. They think because I don't wear a toga, I must not know how to count trees, she says. But I've kept these ledgers since your father's time. They didn't expect resistance. A short walk brings you both to the office of the local decurion. It's housed in a portico shared with an archive and a shrine to Concordia. The air smells of warm limestone and tired clerks. Columns rise like tired bureaucrats holding up the sky. A young scribe, his tunic askew, ink on his thumb, records your statement. He listens, nods, and stamps a copy with red wax. The matter will need a second review. Marcia exhales through her nose. Justice moves slower than a crippled tortoise, she mutters. A magistrate in a purple-edged toga enters from a side chamber, nodding at no one. He seems weighed down by scrolls and ceremony. You and Marcia exchange a look. Her glance says, he won't help. Your silence agrees. A rooster pecks in the courtyard. A clerk scolds it. Then the chicken squawks indignantly and disappears beneath the table. You part ways with Marcia and take a quieter road home, through a stretch of shaded villas where bougainvillea spills over garden walls. A A slave waters potted laurel trees from an amphora, whistling softly. You pass a statue of Ceres, newly cleaned, offerings of grain and coins nestled at her feet. On a nearby bench, an old veteran polishes his boots. You nod. He returns it with a toothless grin. "Fine morning to remember who we are," he says. Nearby, a young girl draws figures in the dust with a stick, humming a tune. A cat lounges nearby, half watching you, half dreaming. The street is peaceful, a rare hush in the center of a city always in motion. You stop at a well, drawing water and splashing your hands. Cool, clean, grounding. Back at your own domus, the household is busy. A slave sweeps the front steps. The cook haggles with a poultry vendor at the gate. Your sister Flavia sews in the courtyard, her needle flashing like a small dagger of silver. You join her briefly, sipping watered wine while she tells you of a neighbor's daughter betrothed to a man 20 years her senior. "He has a vineyard," she says flatly. "That's all anyone sees." A caged bird in the corner trills as if to punctuate her disdain. She pauses in her stitching and watches it flutter. "Freedom means different things to different people," she says softly. You nod. Together, you watch two pigeons alight on the rooftop, pacing along the tiles as if conducting an inspection. Then she chuckles. Still, a vineyard wouldn't be so bad. Before leaving again, you stop at the family shrine. You light a stick of frankincense and place a coin beside a small clay bust of your father. For health, for wisdom, for luck. As the incense curls upward, you think of him. His laugh, his stern lectures, the scar above his brow. You whisper a short prayer under your breath. Not just for guidance, but for courage, for patience, for strength. Then you tidy the shrine, a fresh sprig of bay laurel, a new bowl for offerings. You straighten the votive lamp and relight the wick. There's comfort in the ritual. The city may change, the emperor may fall, but here, in this corner of your life, the flame endures. The incense curls like memory. You rise, brushing dust from your tunic. The morning's duties are done. Rome, for all its chaos, holds together, by law, by custom, by threads of shared expectation. You are ready for what comes next. The incense from your morning prayer still clings faintly to your tunic as you step back into the world. The sun now reigns higher, transforming the city's surfaces into mirrors of heat. Shadows draw tight to the base of every column and statue. Even the dogs have gone quiet, curling under carts and shade awnings. You make your way toward the basilica, not for leisure, but for the everyday rituals of law and record. The Basilica Julia stretches before you, its long marble floor worn smooth by 1,000 footsteps. Merchants, magistrates, lawyers, and common citizens like yourself. Inside, the light filters through latticed windows, casting gridded patterns on the ground. Scribes sit at folding tables, hunched like crows over their ink and scrolls. The scent of ink, sharp and vinegary, mixes with the musk of sweat and old parchment. Your sandals slap softly as you move past columns, listening. A magistrate delivers judgment in a case of disputed inheritance. The plaintiff, a wiry man with deep-set eyes, argues in rapid-fire Latin. His opponent, a matron with silver-streaked hair, counters with a scroll bearing her late husband's wax seal. The magistrate listens, unmoving, his expression unreadable. Around them, a knot of spectators murmurs and leans in like reeds in a breeze. Nearby, a young man scribbles on a wax tablet, struggling with the curved letters of legal Latin. His teacher, a lean figure in a red-dyed tunic, watches with folded arms. "Again," he says, "make it legible, or you may as well be a barbarian." You exchange a glance with the boy. He smiles sheepishly, and you nod encouragement. We were all there once. You find the public board where announcements are posted, edicts, tax notices, and the names of debtors. A crowd stands squinting at the latest lists. One man swears softly under his breath, his name just visible on the lower edge of the parchment. A fishmonger with hands like dock ropes complains loudly about a new toll on carts entering from the southern gate. "That's my profit gone," he says. A woman next to him offers a honeyed fig from her satchel. He takes it, grumbles thanks, and they fall into quiet conversation. You pass by the corner where public notaries sit under umbrellas, copying deeds and oaths. Their quills scrape steadily, rhythmically. One yawns, wipes his brow, and dips again into his inkwell. You make your way toward a shaded garden nestled behind the Basilica Aemilia, where fountains burble lazily into stone troughs. A few citizens rest here, escaping the heat. Some read, others nap. You sit beside a statue of Fortuna and pull from your satchel a piece of bread and a handful of olives, your second meal of the day. A senator in a stained toga arrives, talking to himself. He sits beside you, not acknowledging your presence, muttering about a speech he's rehearsing for the Senate floor. Justice must begin in the heart of every citizen, he says aloud, then shakes his head. Too soft. You eat quietly, letting his words drift past. The water murmurs beside you. A bee circles your cup. You swat gently and sip. Two equestrians argue over a debt. Their voices rise, echoing off the garden walls. A passing priest from the Temple of Janus pauses and intervenes with a soft-spoken parable. His words are calm but firm. The men scoff, then separate. One kicks a pebble into the fountain. Nearby, an elderly couple shares a small scroll. The man reads aloud, slowly, lovingly. It's a poem, something about a river goddess. The woman leans her head against his shoulder. A city slave passes with a basket full of messages. He calls out names. One man answers, receives his scroll, and tears the seal with shaking fingers. His face softens. Good news, perhaps. Refreshed, you rise and wander back through the forum. The light has shifted. Vendors pull their awnings lower. A child with a harp plays a simple melody. His mother watches from a blanket nearby, eyes half-lidded in the heat. As you pass the tabularium again, a young woman offers you a bundle of herbs. For courage, she says. Wear it under your tunic. It keeps away ill fortune. You accept it, pressing a coin into her hand. She bows. You pause at the edge of a fountain near the temple of Castor and Pollux. The marble twins stand proud above you. You wash your hands, letting the cold water bite into your palms. Rome does not slow, but it shifts. As midday approaches, the city hums differently. More patience. You've done your share of the morning's business. Now it's time to find shade, perhaps a friend, or simply silence. The afternoon begins. You turn from the fountain, wiping your wet hands against your tunic, as a breeze carries with it the smell of juniper and burning incense. Rome softens now, not quieter, but more contemplative. The next hour belongs not to commerce or debate, but to temples, reflection, and the sacred mid-morning pause. You head west, toward the Capitoline Hill. Its ascent is familiar but steep, a winding climb lined with votive stones and small shrines tucked in corners. As you walk, you pass citizens doing the same, some in silence, others in low conversation. The higher you go, the more the noise of the forum fades into a distant golden murmur. You pass two elderly matrons leaning against one another, clutching bundles of herbs and small ceramic jars for offerings. One stops to tie her sandal, the other hums a hymn. Their pace is slow, reverent, their faith woven into every step. The temple of Jupiter Optimus Maximus dominates the summit like a crown. You stand for a moment beneath its towering columns, feeling the sun pulse off the gleaming roof tiles. The priests have already begun their prayers. A procession of augurs passes you, stoic men in white robes edged with purple, each holding a curved litus staff. A nearby priest adjusts the sacred bronze instruments of augury, preparing them for the reading of birds' flight. A boy beside him releases a pigeon skyward, and all heads tilt to follow its arc. Omens are always being read in Rome, even when the citizens pretend otherwise. You step inside the sanctuary's portico, joining a small group of citizens kneeling near the altar. The air smells of burned laurel and charred ox blood. A bronze brazier crackles softly. You close your eyes and bow your head, offering silent thanks for the morning completed, for the cooling shade, for your family's health, for nothing specific and everything at once. Exiting, you pause by a statue of Juno. Someone has left fresh garlands. The petals wilt in the heat, but the gesture is recent, sincere. A mother with two small children kneels before her, whispering. One child places a small carved doll at Juno's feet. A prayer, perhaps, for a sibling yet to come. Down the hill again, the tempo is gentle. A passing flute player offers a tune to the gods, his music weaving with birdsong. On a shaded stairwell, two girls braid one another's hair with reeds and forget-me-nots, giggling as a goat startles past. You descend from the hill slowly, not in haste. To rush after temple worship would feel wrong. Instead, you take the longer way down, along a quiet garden path maintained by temple servants. Bees hum in the rosemary bushes. A marble bench offers rest, and you take it. You aren't alone. An elderly philosopher sits nearby, shaded by a fig tree. He sips from a clay cup and watches the sky. "It is a fine thing," he says to no one in particular, "to live in a city that prays more than it punishes." You smile politely. He doesn't need reply. His dog, an old mutt with a drooping ear, nuzzles your foot. You scratch behind its ears and it flops onto its side with a sigh. He begins a quiet monologue on fate and virtue. He names the Stoics and Cicero, laments the corruption of certain magistrates, praises restraint. His words are not meant for you, but you're grateful to share the shade of his wisdom. You walk again past the Temple of Concord and into a smaller shrine to Minerva. It's quiet here, less attended. You find peace in the simplicity. An old priestess nods as you enter but says nothing. You light a small wick and leave a token, a coin wrapped in folded linen. As you kneel, the scent of rosemary and frankincense mixes with warm dust. You whisper a vow, a promise to learn, to be patient, to protect those in your care. The stone floor beneath your knees is cool, and the silence around you is sacred. Outside again, the sun now sits directly overhead. Its heat presses down like a hand. Shade is precious now, and you find it under the colonnade of the Porticus Octaviae, where artisans often rest between commissions. Here, men and women speak in hushed tones. Some sketch mosaics or chisel stone models. A group of young artists debate technique, quoting Greek masters. One draws the arch of your nose as you sit unaware, capturing your profile in charcoal. You let him. He grins as he works. A small girl paints a sparrow on a clay tile beside you, tongue poking from her lips in concentration. Her mother nods toward you. Sit still. You're making the bird fly wrong. The bell of a nearby temple sounds once, a long, sonorous tone. Noon. The city doesn't freeze, but it slows. You can feel it. Shopkeepers rest their heads on their stalls. A few shutters close. Even birds go silent. This hour, though unmarked on any sundial, is sacred in its own way. Not to gods, but to balance. A city that breathes must also exhale. You stretch, stand, and begin to walk again. The air shifts. It's not just heat now. It's inertia. Rome, that vibrant machine of voices and purpose, has entered its gentlest rhythm. The hum of foot traffic wanes. Vendors begin to disappear behind fabric canopies and door beads. The baker down the alley closes his shutters, while the scent of crust and flour lingers like a memory. You stroll along the edge of the forum and turn into a quieter district, where stone-paved lanes narrow into sleepy cul-de-sacs. This is where home calls. Not just your home, but any Roman's. This hour belongs to hearths and hands, shade and sustenance. The wind stirs the dust in lazy circles, and the rustle of linen drying on balconies above adds a soft percussion to the quietude. As you approach your domus, you pass a neighbor drawing water from a well, her copper jug catching flashes of sunlight. "It will boil just standing still," she jokes. You smile in return. A child behind her plays with a hoop and stick, rolling it with delicate concentration until it bumps against your foot. You stoop to return it, ruffling his hair. Inside your courtyard, the familiar clink of dishware signals the upcoming meal. The household is calm but purposeful. The cook has prepared lentils today, slow-simmered in clay pots over coals. Alongside them, boiled eggs, pickled onions, and a platter of soft goat cheese flecked with thyme. Your sister Flavia slices melon with an iron knife, humming a tune you remember from your childhood. The scent of vinegar and mint fills the air. You wash your hands in the bronze basin by the door. The water is cool, blessedly so. At the table, lunch begins without ceremony. Romans eat their prandium, the midday meal, with ease, not extravagance. The food is simple, hearty, and filling. Bread is passed, dipped into oil and vinegar. Flavia shares a joke about the chicken seller's missing finger. Laughter comes quickly. Your mother raises an eyebrow, but allows herself a small chuckle. The walls echo softly with conversation. Above the triclinium, painted frescoes of woodland scenes, nymphs, deer, Apollo with a lyre, watch silently as generations dine. A bird flutters through the open atrium roof and perches on a rafter, tilting its head. Servants sit separately but nearby, also partaking. In this home, dignity is a shared loaf. One pours water into clay cups. Another wipes sweat from his brow with a cloth tucked in his belt. A small dog sits beside your cousin, eyeing the crumbs. After the meal, there is fruit, figs, bruised and sweet, and a second round of watered wine. The wine is light, not for celebration, but for cooling the tongue. Your uncle, recently arrived from Ostia, recounts the mishap of a merchant ship beached on the banks, its cargo of amphorae now sold at half the price. He speaks as if he witnessed history. Your cousin feigns surprise with theatrical gasps, causing giggles around the table. The conversation winds down. A few lean back on the cushions, fanning themselves. Others pick at the last olives or pat their bellies contentedly. The sun presses in more firmly now, convincing even the restless to pause. One of the family's older slaves snoozes in the corner, head gently tilted back, mouth slightly open. A cat curls on a windowsill, watching dust swirl in shafts of golden light. The faint gurgle of the indoor fountain provides a backdrop of peace. A hush settles in. The house enters its slow hour. You lie on a wooden couch draped with linen, one leg lazily over the edge. Your tunic sticks slightly to your back, but a breeze flows through the atrium's open roof. You rest. Not a sleep of dreams, but a Roman half-sleep, one eye closed, one foot in wakefulness. The voices of family fade into a background murmur. Outside, the world seems to hold its breath. Even the pigeons coo softly, subdued by the heat. The neighbor's laundry doesn't sway, the air is still. Somewhere distant, a flute plays, soft, tentative notes drifting through the alleys like a lullaby. The siesta is not idle, it is sacred. It is earned. You feel the weight of the morning ease from your body like tension draining from a wound. Your limbs loosen, your breath slows. The city hums somewhere distant, still alive but kindly muted. Voices return now and then, the faint clack of wooden sandals, a vendor muttering as he tidies his stall. But inside the domus, time flows thick and slow, like honey from a jar. Your brother in another room strums a lyre. The notes are uncertain, exploratory. You smile. Perhaps he'll become a musician, perhaps not. But in this hour, ambition is suspended. There is only rest, recovery, a quiet pact with the gods of balance. A clay chime rings softly in the courtyard. Flavia stirs from her seat. You stretch, your muscles reluctantly waking. The siesta ends, not with finality, but with a shift. The day resumes. You rise, lighter than before. There is more to be done. But for now, the sun has passed its apex. Its harshness begins to mellow. Rome exhales again. You step into the light. The sun now leans westward, and the harsh white light of noon begins its slow transformation into gold. A breeze stirs again, tentative but welcome. You emerge from the cool sanctuary of your home, blinking against the warmth. The streets still lie in partial slumber, but stirrings of movement ripple through them like the first breath after a long meditation. Vendors lift canvas shades. Artisans wipe their tools and reheat their forge embers. Children's laughter resumes from some hidden courtyard. A boy chases his own shadow while a neighbor calls him in to finish his chores. You tighten your belt and step into the familiar rhythm of early afternoon. There's a lightness in your stride now, the kind that follows rest and bread. The heat no longer oppresses, it energizes, as if the siesta has reset your senses and reminded your limbs of purpose. You pass a public fountain where a group of slaves draw water, gossiping under their breath in languages from the east. Their laughter bubbles up like the spring itself. A nearby fig vendor slices his fruit open, the sweet pink flesh attracting flies and a few persistent bees. He fans them lazily, calling out prices to no one in particular. You head eastward toward the Subura district, a bustling hive where Rome's diversity reveals itself most vividly. Every step introduces a new smell. Roasted chickpeas, crushed lavender, fish brine, charred wood. A foreign accent calls out from a rooftop, and laughter echoes from a nearby alley. A Greek physician opens the shutters of his shop and sweeps away rosemary sprigs placed earlier to ward off fever. Next door, a cobbler pounds leather while his son, no older than 5, hands him nails like an apprentice in training. They nod at you as you pass. You pause briefly to watch a butcher weigh a slab of lamb on a bronze scale, arguing prices with a customer in tunic and sandals worn bare from long days. Women pass with baskets balanced on their heads, some filled with grapes and barley, others with fabric or kitchen scraps. An Egyptian priest in linen robes walks past murmuring a hymn under his breath. A painted wall bears new graffiti, a gladiator's name scrawled in red ink beside a crude drawing of a lion. In the distance, a small crowd gathers around a storyteller perched on an overturned barrel. He speaks of the Trojan War, his voice animated, hands slicing the air as Hector meets Achilles once more. You pause, letting the words carry you. Behind him, an elderly woman sells painted figurines of gods and animals. You spot a clay wolf, Romulus and Remus, nestled at its belly. You buy it, for your nephew, you say, though you know you'll keep it. She smiles, toothless, and places it in a linen pouch. A small boy picks your pocket, or tries to. You catch his wrist gently. He stares at you, unafraid. You press a copper coin into his hand instead. Steal from someone richer next time, you say, and he vanishes into the crowd. Business begins again. You stop by a stall to collect a commission, a scroll copy of a poem dictated to a scribe days earlier. The merchant unwraps it reverently and hands it over, sealed with wax and tied in twine. It's good work. You thank him and trade a coin. Nearby, a line of tradesmen gather outside the office of a notary. Contracts, debts, land rights. Rome's lifeblood is recorded not in blood, but in ink. The notary emerges briefly to wet his face with cool water, sighing at the length of the day still ahead. Two men argue loudly over a boundary dispute, gesturing with ink-stained fingers and rolled parchment. A passing patrol of urban cohorts watches calmly, their armor gleaming dully in the sun. Rome's peace must be maintained, even if with a look. You make your way toward the baths, not to bathe yet, but to meet a friend. The Thermae will come soon enough. For now, the exterior colonnades provide shade and company. Gaius waits with 2 cups of mulsum, wine sweetened with honey. His tunic is freshly laundered and his hair oiled. He's already laughing as you approach. Still alive? He jokes. After your noble midday conquest of lentils and sleep? You clink cups. The wine is warm but comforting. You both lean back against the column, watching people pass. A woman walks by with dyed red hair and a pet monkey clutching her shoulder. A blind man taps his way toward the entrance, aided by a young girl carrying his cane. You talk, the way Romans do, with gestures, with riddles, with stories inside stories. You speak of an election dispute in the forum, a singer who lost her voice in the market, a fisherman who claims Neptune spoke to him in a dream. Around you, others converse too. Some play dice. A blind man plays a reed flute, earning a few coins from passers-by. The air carries the warm, heavy scent of oil and perfume, of body and dust and distant myrrh. An acrobat flips through the portico, earning applause. A vendor hawks bath oils infused with sage and lavender. A senator's scribe takes notes beneath a statue's shadow. There is a feeling here, not of business, not of urgency, but of flow. The post-siesta hour belongs to reawakening. The hour shifts again, the sun begins to descend, the city's pulse quickens. Somewhere a bell rings, somewhere a door closes, somewhere a gladiator sharpens his blade. Your friend stands and gestures toward the bath entrance. Shall we prepare for the evening? You nod. You've returned to the rhythm. Rome is stirring again, and so are you. The wide bronze doors of the Thermae swing open, releasing a gust of scented, humid air. Steam, rose oil, laurel. The soundscape shifts as you enter. The splash of water, the clink of cups, the bass of male laughter echoing off marble. You and Gaius step into the apodyterium, the changing room. Rows of cubbyholes line the walls, each occupied with folded tunics, sandals, and wax-sealed pouches. Attendants greet you with nods and extend their hands for your belongings. You undress without ceremony. There's no modesty here, only ritual. The floor is warm beneath your soles, heated from beneath by furnaces tended by slaves who rarely see daylight. Steam lingers in every corner. The air is tinged with the scent of beeswax, mint, and sandalwood. Voices echo softly, a cavern of men in transition, not just from tunic to towel, but from burden to buoyancy. A statue of Apollo watches from a pedestal at the corner. You pass beneath his gaze and feel, for a moment, a sense of ancient continuity. This is not new. This is not invention. This is inheritance. You begin in the tepidarium, the warm room. Light filters in through colored glass windows, casting shifting patterns on the polished walls. The temperature embraces you, not hot, but thick, like being wrapped in a wet sheet. You sit on a stone bench and breathe deeply. Men murmur around you in idle conversation, updates on crop yield, predictions for next week's races, speculation on which senator has fallen from favor. A servant passes with a bronze pitcher, pouring water over heated tiles. The hiss of vapor rises like incense. The marble benches are worn smooth by generations of Roman backsides. The ceiling, curved like a dome of the heavens, is painted blue and dotted with constellations. Someone has scrawled a love poem into the plaster beside your seat, a crude but heartfelt tribute to a woman named Livia. Gaius teases you for still clutching your clay wolf figurine. You shrug. Rome has its roots, you reply. You lean back, letting the warmth work into your spine. A young boy is sent in with a bundle of oils. His father gestures for a lavender blend and begins rubbing it into his forearms. The boy watches, mimicking with invisible gestures. Next, the caldarium, the hot room. The air is thick and biting, laced with eucalyptus and sweat. You lower yourself slowly into a deep marble pool, heated by the hypocaust below. The heat presses into your skin, sinking deep into joints and muscle. Your breath slows. The silence here is different, dense, heavier. Beside you, an older man hums a tune. Across the pool, a pair of young men argue over philosophy, Stoicism versus Epicureanism. You smile. Even here, Rome debates. The water is a mirror of candlelight, and your fingers prune as they skim its surface. Above, a mosaic of Neptune riding his chariot decorates the ceiling. A faint drip of condensation from the dome plinks rhythmically into the water. You rub your skin with olive oil, then scrape it away with a striggle, a curved bronze blade. Dead skin and oil peel off in soft gray curls. An attendant helps clean your back. The sensation is intimate but normal, as commonplace as trimming your nails. Nearby, a senator discusses grain prices with a merchant, their voices hushed. A teenage boy watches them carefully, learning. Rome educates not just through books, but through overheard words. Now the frigidarium, the cold plunge. You steel yourself and step in. The water bites your skin like iron. A full breath escapes your chest. You submerge completely, then rise again with a gasp. Clarity, alertness. The last heat of the caldarium is shocked out of you. Around you, others laugh, shout, splash. Boys leap in for sport. Old men brace the water with noble resolve. One merchant declares he's cured his back pain. Another demands silence so he can recite a poem. A group of soldiers lounges at the edge, discussing drills and rations. One has a scar stretching across his shoulder. He proudly recounts the battle in Dacia where he earned it. The others nod solemnly and then burst into laughter as one slips into the water too quickly. Afterward, you recline once again in the tepidarium. Slaves bring towels. Some guests sip wine, others snack on nuts or sweet dates. Gaius has found a pair of old acquaintances, one a former soldier, the other a mosaic artisan with blue-stained fingertips. They speak of Syria, of Gaul, of quiet border towns that breathe Rome in every coin and whisper. You speak too, but less now. The heat has smoothed your thoughts like river stones. The artisan shows a sketch of his latest design, Minerva in blue and gold. You nod in approval. He says it will line the villa of a senator who has never seen battle, but insists on a warrior goddess in every room. The ex-soldier tells a joke about Gauls and goats. Gaius laughs until he chokes on a date. A nearby group applauds an impromptu poem recited by a young scribe who's only just started shaving. As you dress, an attendant returns your tunic, slightly warmed. Your limbs feel light, reborn. You run your fingers through your hair, now damp but clean. Gaius adjusts his belt and sighs. This, he says, is why I love this city. You nod, not needing to reply. The walls, the floors, the water, they know. Nearby, a man thanks an attendant by name. Another slips a few coins into the donation box set beside a statue of Hygeia, goddess of cleanliness. A woman peeks through the women's entrance across the courtyard, waving at someone you can't see. You step back into the sunlight. The glare is softer now. The street's busier. The wind carries a hint of evening, a taste of olives, of cooling stone, of approaching shadows. There is still time, and Rome is still awake. The sun rests at a gentler angle now, casting long lines across the flagstones. Your skin still tingles from the thermal baths, a faint layer of lavender and oil clinging to you like the memory of warmth. The city feels different now, brighter and busier, yet calmer in tone. Like a great beast stretching after its midday sleep, Rome is again on the move. Gaius bids you farewell at the street corner, heading toward the Forum to meet a client. You watch his figure shrink into the mass of tunics and sandals, and then turn toward your next obligation, errands and correspondence. This is the hour of small duties and public face, where civic identity reveals itself not in grandeur, but in obligation. Your footsteps fall in rhythm with the city's renewed energy. The scent of roasted pine nuts and fresh bread wafts from a passing vendor, and laughter rises from a nearby fountain where a group of children splash. You head first to the Tabellari, the courier station near the Forum. It's a small structure built of modest brick and shaded by an awning, but its importance is immense. Within its walls, the nerves of the Republic flicker. Notes, commands, poetry, warnings, and invitations are copied, sealed, and carried across the empire. A young scribe greets you, a boy of perhaps 14, ink-stained fingers and a scroll tucked behind his ear. You dictate your letter to a cousin in Ostia, an inquiry about the missing shipment of garum, that sharp, prized fish sauce. The boy listens carefully, then repeats it back in clear Latin before committing the words to wax. The courier, an older man with weathered calves and calloused hands, presses your seal into the warm wax. He tucks the letter into his leather satchel alongside a dozen others. Tomorrow, he says, it will be on horseback, galloping along the Via Ostiensis. Next, you make your way to the Taberna Libraria, the book and scroll shop. The interior is dim and cool, the walls lined with scroll racks, ink pots, and stacked baskets of papyrus. A cat stretches languidly on the counter, its fur spotted with tiny flecks of gold dust. Lucilla, the shopkeeper, greets you warmly. She is middle-aged, sharp-eyed, and quick to recommend the latest work. Today she holds up a slim volume of Horace's Odes, freshly copied, the ink barely dry. You flip through it slowly, savoring the elegant script and the crisp feel of the parchment. In a far corner, two young boys recite lines of Virgil from memory, while an old teacher listens with a cane tapping in rhythm. The air smells of cedarwood and beeswax. A traveler from Alexandria asks Lucilla if she carries any scrolls translated from the Egyptian tongue. She produces a tiny, tattered book of folk tales. He bows deeply and purchases it without hesitation. Your next stop is the tailor's shop, just off the Vicus Patricius. The tailor is waiting for you, proud of his work. Your wife's tunica has been hemmed, repaired, and pressed. He unwraps it slowly, revealing perfect stitches and rich folds. He leads you to the back of his workshop to show off his new loom, imported from Hispania. Faster, tighter, he boasts, running his fingers across the threads. He pulls out fabric dyed a deep Tyrian purple, not for you, of course, but for someone with far higher status. Still, you admire the craftsmanship and promise to return. Outside, two boys run by, one holding a rooster, the other trailing behind with a sandal raised in mock punishment. The tailor chuckles, murmuring about youthful folly, then disappears again into his piles of cloth. You make your way toward a quiet corner where a small temple of Mercury stands, nestled between two busy alleys. It's an oasis of calm, a place where the god of messages, travel, and trade watches over Rome's transactions. Inside, the cool air greets you with the mingled scents of laurel, myrrh, and melting beeswax. The flickering lamps cast dancing shadows across the bronze statue of Mercury, who gazes forward with winged feet, poised for movement. You place a coin reverently at his feet and close your eyes. The prayer is silent but heartfelt. You ask for swift letters, fruitful ventures, and steady hands for tomorrow's work. Other worshippers murmur their own hopes. A merchant seeking safe passage to Massilia, a widow praying for news from her soldier son in Illyria, An older man simply sits, breathing deeply, needing no words at all. Emerging once more into the sunlit street, you head to the olive merchant near the Sabura, a bustling hub of noise and spice. Her stall is colorful, with rows of amphorae glinting in the afternoon light. The air is rich with the scent of brine, garlic, thyme, and rosemary. You taste several samples, a bright citrus-marinated blend, a smoky black olive, a green olive stuffed with crushed almonds. After some debate, you select a large jar of the herbed kind. As you pay, she tosses in a handful of capers with a sly wink. "For luck," she says. "Or flavor. Who can tell the difference?" She also slips you a parchment with her son's name. He is seeking an apprenticeship. You fold it carefully and agree to consider it. Her gratitude is quiet but deep. Your errands complete, you begin your walk home through the maze of Roman streets. Your belt pouch is lighter, but your hands are filled. A scroll of odes, a tunic wrapped in linen, a jar of olives, a note in need of thought. The city flows around you. A cart rolls by bearing amphorae marked with Egyptian lotus stamps. An actor in costume steps from a doorway, shaking off his mask. A blind musician sits beside a fountain, tuning his lyre. A girl beside him sings. Two lovers say goodbye at a street corner, their hands lingering until the very last moment. A baker's apprentice dusts flour from his tunic and waves at you. From a window overhead, someone plays a flute, sweet, simple, soft. The light over Rome shifts, not yet golden, but close. The shadow of the Palatine stretches longer than before. And in this moment, errands done, footsteps softened, day turning, you feel the breath of the city again. You breathe it in. As the sun begins its descent, casting a warm amber veil over Rome's rooftops, your steps slow, not from fatigue, but from reverence. This is the hour of reflection, when the city softens. The marble glows like honey. The sky above is a deepening blue, brushed with streaks of gold and pink, as if the gods themselves are painting the heavens. You cross a narrow bridge spanning the Aqua Virgo, its arches catching the sun's final blaze. Below, water trickles past with a steady hush, carrying with it petals, leaves, and stray prayers whispered from balconies. A fruit vendor calls out a final discount on late figs. A mother urges her son home, her voice gentle but firm. You stop midway across the bridge and rest your arms against the cool stone ledge. Beneath you, the water reflects the changing light, turning silver, then rose, then golden. A fisherman gathers his lines for the day, his net heavy with glinting scales. A small bird lands beside you and pecks at a crumb before taking flight again, its wings slicing through the honey-colored air. You turn toward the Janiculum Hill. Not far, but just enough to offer a gentle rise and a better view. The climb is meditative, lined with cypress trees and flowering hedges. The road here is quieter, cushioned with wind-carried petals from blooming trees. Even the sounds of the city seem gentler from this angle. Others climb too, an old couple arm in arm, pausing often to rest and point out familiar rooftops. A pair of students walk ahead of you, locked in an animated discussion about Cicero's moral duties. A dog, lean and nimble, darts between them, barking joyfully as it chases its own shadow. At the summit, the city unfolds beneath you like an unfurled scroll. The dome of the Pantheon glows, reflecting the dying light like a golden eye. The columns of the Forum cast long shadows across the earth, as if ancient Rome itself were stretching. Far in the distance, smoke rises in soft spirals from a dozen kitchen hearths. You sit on a stone bench worn smooth by generations and watch. This is where the city exhales. Voices rise from below, vendors calling out the last of their wares, children laughing as they run through alleyways, the occasional bark of a restless dog. The creak of wagon wheels blends with the rhythmic thud of sandals against stone. A nearby boy balances a hoop on a stick, trying to roll it downhill without letting it tip. His sister sits cross-legged on the grass, braiding daisies into a chain. Their father reclines beside her, reading from a scroll and pausing now and then to correct her Latin grammar. A woman with a basket of fresh herbs approaches you, offering sprigs of mint and rosemary in exchange for a small coin. You accept one of each and inhale their aroma. The breeze carries hints of cooking fires, olive oil, grilled lamb, and the nutty sweetness of roasted chestnuts. It smells like supper, like rest, like home. Gaius finds you again. He's climbed the hill with a skin of wine and 2 cups. Thought I'd find you up here, he says, passing one to you. The skin is warm from the sun, the wine dry and earthy with a slight bite. You toast quietly and sip. You talk about nothing urgent, about how fast the shadows grow this time of year, about your father's garden and how the figs used to ripen early, about a strange bird you saw last week by the Tiber, green and red, foreign and beautiful. The conversation meanders, as does time. Around you, others find their own sunset rituals. A group of performers rehearse quietly beneath an olive tree. A lyre, a flute, a singer with a soft voice like woven silk. Their song is ancient, older than you, older even than the hill. 2 priests from a nearby shrine of Vesta speak in hushed Latin, blessing the wind and sky as they light a ceremonial lamp. A man in a worn tunic carves something into a wax tablet, occasionally glancing up at the skyline as if waiting for inspiration. Gaius hums a tune from your shared childhood. You join. No one notices, or if they do, they smile. The music blends with the breeze, a quiet hymn to the coming dark. The sun kisses the horizon, then begins to vanish behind the distant hills. Golden light pools in every crevice, between cobblestones, behind statues, across tiled roofs. Rome does not dim, it ripens. It glows. Children light candles in small bowls and set them afloat in fountains. The flickering flames dance like tiny spirits across the water's surface. Women begin pulling shutters closed, gently, lovingly, as if tucking the city in. Somewhere, someone plays a soft melody on a reed pipe, the notes rising like incense. A group of boys rolls up their game boards, placing their dice carefully into clay cups. They wave goodnight to one another and disappear into the gathering shadows. From a balcony above, an old man pours water onto his plants and mutters a prayer to Tellus, goddess of the earth. The last full light of day stretches across your feet. You and Gaius rise together, brushing dust from your tunics. The wineskin is nearly empty. Another good day, he says. They always are, you reply. Together, you descend the hill, walking slowly, without words. The torches are being lit in the streets below, tiny constellations on earth. The scent of stew drifts from a nearby home. You pass a boy carrying a loaf of bread wrapped in linen, and a woman carrying a candle like it's a sacred flame. You reach the base of the hill just as the first star appears overhead, and Rome, eternal, golden, dreaming, welcomes the night. The shadows grow longer with each passing step as you return to your domus. Oil lamps flicker in shop fronts, casting golden halos on the pavement. The city's noise softens, less like the chaotic energy of day, more like the hum of something content, something complete. The door creaks open to reveal the soft glow of your own atrium. The household slave nods in greeting, already lighting the bronze lamps that line the hallway. The scent of stewed lentils and leeks wafts in from the kitchen, mingling with a trace of crushed bay leaf and slow-roasting pork. Your stomach stirs. In the courtyard, your children are finishing their evening play. Your eldest recites lines from Homer with theatrical exaggeration, while the younger chases a wooden hoop around a column. They rush to you as you enter, arms outstretched, their tunics dusty and their cheeks bright with laughter. Your wife watches from the shadows near the peristyle garden, a soft smile playing on her lips. She takes your hand and gently draws you toward the impluvium. The water in its shallow basin reflects the dimming light. You kneel together to rinse your hands, an old tradition. The simple act of shared ritual, a pause that resets the day's rhythm. A small terracotta brazier crackles softly in the corner, releasing a faint scent of burning myrrh. It's a scent you associate with this time of day, mingling memory with sensation. The nearby walls glow in soft ochre tones, warmed by the golden spill of the setting sun filtering through wooden shutters. You change into a clean tunic for supper. Your wife greets you again in the triclinium, already reclined on a cushioned lectus, supervising the table arrangements. She offers you a fig and a knowing smile. Behind her, a slave girl sets down a platter of fruit, like arranging pomegranate seeds into a tiny mosaic on a plate. The central oil lamp is lit, its flame steady and soft. The table is modest but thoughtfully prepared. lentils with garlic, a plate of olives, soft goat cheese, and a loaf of crusty bread dusted with ash from the oven floor. In the center, a large clay bowl of pork stew simmers, its surface glistening with oil and herbs. There are pickled onions, hard-boiled quail eggs, dates soaked in wine, and slices of fresh cucumber. A dish of sautéed cabbage spiced with caraway seeds adds an earthy aroma. A fig compote rests beside bowls of boiled barley. A pot of chickpea puree garnished with rosemary sits beside a tray of mulled wine. A jug of watered wine is passed around and refilled ceremoniously. The honey is stirred in gently, not rushed, as if even sweetness deserves its moment. A small bowl of cumin-scented lentils is offered to each person individually. You dip a piece of bread and offer the first bite to your wife before tasting your own. Her eyes meet yours, and nothing needs to be said. The family gathers. Reclining on low couches around the table, the children are allowed to sit upright, a special allowance for their age. A house slave fans the table gently, keeping the late flies at bay. As you begin to eat, conversation blossoms naturally. Your wife shares news from her cousin in Iridium. Your eldest son proudly explains a geometric puzzle from his tutor. Your daughter offers you a wildflower and asks if it might be sacred to Flora. You talk about Gaius and the view from Janiculum Hill, about the poem that lingered in your mind even after the lyre faded, about the temple bells you heard echoing across the rooftops. A small roasted bird, quail or pigeon, is brought out, garnished with chopped herbs and a drizzle of date syrup. The youngest child claps with delight at the presentation. Your son asks a question about why the moon seems to change shape. Your wife begins explaining in simple terms the lunar cycle, which prompts your daughter to remember a story she once heard about Diana chasing shadows across the sky. You all laugh when she insists she saw her chariot once. You turn the conversation to the constellations, pointing up through the open atrium to where stars will soon appear. The courses unfold like chapters. A tray of smoked fish appears, a handful of raisins scattered over cheese. You share slices of honey cake, crumbly and delicate, made from a recipe passed down from your grandmother. The children delight in the sweetness. The youngest smears honey on his cheek. Your son recites a passage from the Aeneid. His voice wavers but grows more confident. You applaud. Your wife suggests he memorize something from Horace next time. Your daughter recites a poem of her own invention, about the moon watching the household dog. It makes everyone laugh. You tell a story about your own childhood, how you once got lost in the forum and ended up watching a street performer for hours before your father found you. Your wife shares a tale from her girlhood, involving a mischievous goose that chased her all through her family's orchard. The children listen wide-eyed, imagining their parents as younger, clumsier versions of themselves. A harp is brought forth. Your daughter plays a tune while your wife hums along. You tap your foot softly. The moment is simple, fragile, and perfect. Time dilates. The dog yawns, settling its head on your foot. The fire crackles gently in the brazier as the light dims further. You peel a fig slowly, sharing slices with your wife. Then your wife asks for help slicing more bread. You oblige, and your daughter fetches more cheese. The dog gets a small bite and wags its tail furiously. The scent of roasted pine nuts wafts in from the kitchen, tomorrow's meal in the making. The children begin sketching on their wax tablets, the eldest drawing an eagle, the youngest doodling a crude chariot race. Your wife talks about the neighbors, a new baby born 2 doors down. An old man who used to sing every evening hasn't been heard in 2 nights. You consider checking on him tomorrow. You discuss which temple you might visit on the weekend, whether to leave an offering to Fortuna or to Mars. The children vote for Fortuna. She, after all, brings sweets. A thunderclap is heard faintly in the distance, perhaps a storm on the horizon. The flicker of lightning dances along the atrium's far wall for a moment. A brief silence falls. Not uncomfortable, just full. The kind that comes only when people know each other deeply. Trust, laughter, memory, all gently woven into the hush. The light outside dims further. The atrium glows with the gentle warmth of oil flames. The children are excused. They disappear into the shadows with giggles and sleepy limbs. A slave begins clearing the table. Your wife remains beside you. She tells you about a dream she had the night before, of walking through an orchard in springtime, barefoot, unburdened. She wonders if it meant something. You say you hope you were in the dream, too. She smiles and nods. You speak about nothing and everything, of old stories, of lost time, of how fast your children are growing. She laughs when you try to quote a line of Catullus and misremember it. A bowl of warm water is brought for you to wash your hands. A small towel scented with lavender rests on the rim. You dry your hands slowly, savoring the softness. The household quiets. You stand slowly, stretch, and glance around your home. This temple of quiet joys, like of laughter and little rituals. The fig tree rustles in the night breeze. From down the street, the faint sound of a flute floats through the air. The sky is dark now, but not cold. Rome, too, seems to breathe slower, and you are here, present, full. The light outside has mellowed into the soft blues and purples of approaching twilight. Overhead, the sky begins its slow surrender to night. The golden haze lingering on roof tiles gives way to the moon's silver promise. You linger for a while in the atrium, standing still as if savoring the echo of the day's final breath. The soft bubbling of the household fountain feels louder now in the hush. You run a finger along the rim of the basin, watching how the ripples pulse outward like time itself unfolding across water. From the kitchen, the clink of terracotta and bronze signals the last of the evening's cleanup. Your wife lights another oil lamp, its flicker catching in her eyes. A breeze stirs the linen curtains at the threshold of the peristyle, scented faintly with the green tang of mint leaves and cool water. Somewhere nearby, a cicada begins its rhythm. A faint fragrance of chamomile drifts from a drying bundle tied above the hearth. A lullaby sung from a distant house trickles through the night like the last breath of day slipping through the shutters. You pause to listen. Even songs from strangers feel like home tonight. The breeze brings in the faint clatter of a cart being wheeled away in the alley beyond the wall. The cart's wheel creaks as it bumps over cobblestone. You recognize that sound. It belongs to old Felix, who sells wax tablets. A door slams shut nearby, followed by a child's giggle, then silence. The evening layers itself around you like fabric, linen, wool, and dusk. You walk into the peristyle garden. The stone path is warm underfoot, having baked in the sun all afternoon. The air is still, but carries the scent of trailing ivy and jasmine, now beginning to open. Your wife follows you silently. Together you walk without speaking, letting the garden soothe you both with its quiet abundance. The shadows between the columns stretch long and deep now, like fingers of the past reaching gently forward. A moth flits silently by, chasing the flame of a nearby lamp. A frog's soft chirp echoes from the garden's fountain, its rhythm slow and calming. You stop by the lararium, your household shrine. Its tiny altar is bathed in soft candlelight. You kneel and whisper a short prayer, not for fortune nor power, but for the simple continuation of this peace. You leave a pinch of salt and a smear of honey on a small dish, a timeless offering for household gods who have watched you grow and watched over your children. Your wife hums a short hymn, an old melody she learned from her mother, lilting and slow. Her voice is soft as breath. A faint flicker dances across the statues of the Laras and Penates, as if they too exhale. You remain there longer than usual. You reflect on your father's old prayers, the ones he whispered over bread and oil. You remember how he placed a sprig of rosemary on the altar after each harvest. You reach for a small shell once brought back from the coast and place it near the flame. A gesture without words, just memory. Your children call to you. They are gathered now in the cubiculum, their sleeping room, already curled beneath light woolen blankets. The eldest holds a wooden carving of Hercules, the youngest clutching a doll stuffed with flax and wrapped in tiny linen scraps. The middle child has fallen asleep already, his mouth slightly open, his curls damp from a splash of water. The scent of lavender lingers faintly from a sachet tucked under each child's pillow. Your daughter asks for a story. And so with a deep breath, you settle beside them on a reed mat and begin. Long ago, beneath the skies of Ladium, there lived a shepherd who could speak to the birds. Their eyes shine in the flickering lamplight. Your voice is soft, unhurried, melodic, like the tales passed from your father to you, and his to him before that. The tale winds its way through wonder and fear and joy, until the shepherd finds his way back to the stars. The oldest child interjects once to guess a twist in the tale, grinning proudly when he's right. You smile and pat his head. The story ends not with triumph, but with quiet resolution, the shepherd understanding the song of time itself and choosing peace. By the end, the little one's eyes are heavy. You kiss their brows and draw the blanket higher. The eldest thanks you in a whisper. You extinguish the lamp. The darkness is full of warmth. A gentle snore rises from the smallest one. You sit a moment longer, watching the rhythm of their breathing. It syncs with your own, forming a wordless hymn of life passed onward. You whisper one last story to the air, more for yourself than for them. A few lines about a fisherman who dreamed of a city made of clouds, a place where the gods napped and even time slept. You close the curtain gently, as though tucking the day itself to bed. You return to the main room. Your wife is brushing her hair, long strokes in front of a polished bronze mirror. She looks at you over her shoulder and smiles. No words, just warmth. You speak quietly of the next day, what errands must be run, who might visit, what the baker promised to have ready. You debate going to the public baths in the morning or saving the outing for the market day. She suggests taking the children to the forum steps after breakfast. You agree. The stars outside the window begin to multiply. A night bird calls from a nearby roof. The fire in the brazier is reduced to glowing coals, gently pulsing like the last breath of the day. A cup of warm milk with honey is brought in for you both. You drink in silence, the sweetness gentle and earthy. She speaks of a dream she had, of walking through a hallway of gold where the air smelled of figs and pine. You promise to remember it for her. You begin to hum, barely audible, a tune from years ago, from your youth in the countryside. She joins in, and soon the hum fills the air between you, like invisible threads stitching the moment into permanence. The walls around you seem to lean in slightly, as though the house itself is listening. You both laugh at a shared memory of the time she spilled a basket of grapes in the marketplace, and they rolled beneath a magistrate's sandals. She tells you a new story, one you hadn't heard before, how she once climbed the olive tree behind her childhood home, just to pluck a nest from a branch. Inside was one perfect egg. She didn't keep it. She left it there, untouched, and returned the next day to see the chick had hatched. That tiny life, she says, is why she always whispers to birds. You say nothing, but your heart folds around the moment. Together you sit on a small wooden bench beside the atrium pool. You say nothing at first. You both watch your reflections, broken and rebuilt by every ripple. The household cat pads silently across the tile, curling up near your feet. You talk about your hopes, about how the children are growing fast, about how this day, this very ordinary, humble day, feels like a gift. You hold her hand. She leans her head on your shoulder. You reminisce about your early days together, when your home was just 2 rooms and an alcove. How the roof leaked during the storm of that one winter. How you thought figs were only for rich men, until she showed you where the wild ones grew along the Appian Way. How she once sang a lullaby to a neighbor's baby just to help the mother sleep. Little things that now feel like sacred stones laid in the foundation of your shared life. You talk about the future, of what Rome might become, of the children and what they might grow into, an orator, a healer, maybe a poet. She asks if you would move to the countryside again someday. You say yes, perhaps, but not yet. Rome is still your heart. You notice the moon now, rising above the neighboring rooftops. Its glow paints the edge of the garden wall in pale silver. A gust of wind stirs the fig tree, and a few leaves fall like soft applause onto the marble floor. You mention quietly how your mother once told you that the moon watches lovers, and that it never forgets a kiss shared under its eye. Your wife smiles at this, smiles and leans in to kiss you again. And then silence. The kind that holds not awkwardness, but trust. You remain like that for a while longer, soaking in the hush that only a lived-in home, a shared breath, and a well-loved life can offer. Somewhere in the city, a final horn sounds. The gates of Rome are closed for the night. Above you, the constellations glow to life, Orion rising, Venus low in the west. One by one, the lights in neighboring houses go dark. The air grows cooler, softer, more intimate. The household settles. The wind quiets. You breathe in. Rome exhales. The dogs no longer bark. The streets below begin to slumber. And you are here. Still. Home. Night fully envelops Rome now, not with fanfare, but with a steady, sacred hush. The household stands wrapped in soft stillness. The fire in the brazier is now a low glow of coals, emitting gentle warmth like the breath of a sleeping giant. The stars above scatter freely, not obscured by artificial light, each a glint of memory or myth, each a story flickering in the vast dome of sky. You sit once more in the atrium, your back resting against the warm wall of the house, a woolen wrap around your shoulders. Beside you, a cup of lukewarm wine rests on the ledge, its surface reflecting both lamplight and starlight. Somewhere beyond your walls, a late traveler hurries by, sandals scuffing against the paving stones, a dog barking in greeting or warning. The silence of the hour is profound but not empty. It holds the residue of a million footsteps that came before, the layered breath of countless nights wrapped in memory. The walls themselves seem to whisper, old stone remembering voices long faded, and the atrium's shadows stretch like softened echoes of time itself. You can almost imagine the ghostly outlines of your ancestors sitting here before you, generations of the same quiet evening ritual, repeated with different names, different burdens, but the same eternal rhythm. A soft knock sounds from the outer door, just once, then silence. It's the neighbor's slave boy, delivering a small parcel of dried herbs your wife requested earlier in the week. You thank him quietly, slipping a few copper coins into his hand. He nods and vanishes into the night. You set the herbs down on the ledge, and their scent, thyme, bay, and wild oregano, seeps into the room. The rhythm of the city has slowed to a lullaby. The murmuring of fountains, the rustle of olive branches swaying in the evening breeze, these are the sounds of Rome at rest. From your neighbor's garden, the scent of roasting chickpeas and wild herbs wafts over the wall. Someone is singing softly, a tune with no words, just rising and falling like a tide that never reaches the shore. Your wife joins you again. She wraps herself in a shawl and leans beside you. You talk in hushed tones, your voices meant for no one but each other. She recounts a story her friend told at the baths, a tale of a goose that laid an egg of lapis lazuli, which turned out to be a prank by a clever potter. You both laugh quietly, and the sound floats up, joining the rustling leaves and distant lullabies that hover like a protective spell above Rome. You ask about her mother, whether she seemed stronger this morning. Your wife smiles faintly and nods. You feel something ease within you, an unspoken worry soothed by that single gesture. You ask if she remembered to send figs to the midwife on the next street, and she says yes, wrapped in cloth, still warm from the sun. She asks you about your brother's letter, the one that arrived earlier that week from Sicilia. You tell her you haven't had time to read it properly yet, but tomorrow you will. You remember his tight script, how the parchment still smelled of seawater and wine. The brazier crackles once more as you stoke it gently. A curl of smoke twists upward into the darkened air, scented with pine and bay leaves. She leans against you more heavily now, tired but content. You feel the weight of the day in your limbs too. Not a burden, but a fullness. You speak no longer. Words would only clutter the purity of the moment. You look out over your small courtyard and beyond, imagining all the other homes like yours, each with their own quiet rituals, their own flickering lamps, their own children tucked away in straw-stuffed mattresses. You wonder what prayers were whispered tonight across the city, some for healing, some for peace, others simply for the same gentle rest you now begin to crave. Your thoughts drift further. You imagine the city from above, roofs glittering with lamp glow, dogs curled in corners, slaves finishing their last chores of the evening, and priests lighting incense before the altars of Vesta. You picture old senators seated in their private studies, like drafting letters in flickering light. You wonder about the soldiers stationed at the gates. What do they whisper to one another as the hours stretch and the city sleeps? A breeze brushes through the atrium and shifts the shadows on the mosaic floor. You watch them stretch and change like silent dancers. Your wife's breathing is steady beside you. Somewhere far off, a lyre is being played, slow, mournful, beautiful. You step outside the domus briefly. The street is dim, but not abandoned. A few figures walk slowly under oil lamp torches fixed to doorways. A couple bids each other good night in the shadows. A young man carries a lute on his back, humming quietly as he passes. Somewhere, an amphora falls and breaks, sharp pottery cracking into silence, and a voice curses before laughter resumes. Even this, the broken sound of a dropped vessel, feels oddly sacred in the softness of Roman night. You trace the wall of your home with your fingertips as you walk, as if confirming that it's still real, still yours. The cool stone reassures you. A cat darts past, chasing something you cannot see. You smile. As you return, a gust of wind brushes past, bringing with it the scent of figs and the sharp tang of river air. You pause and look toward the Tiber, though it's hidden behind rooftops. Somewhere in the dark, water flows with ancient patience. You peer up toward the stars again and see the faint outline of Orion's belt. You whisper the names of the constellations as your father once taught you. Bootes, Virgo, Cassiopeia. He used to tell you stories about them, his voice blending myth and memory into the very night itself. Back inside, your wife has already begun to tidy the last of the day's comforts. She folds the woolen throw neatly over the bench. She closes a shutter gently, leaving just one open to let in the night air. The lamplight dims as she adjusts the wick. You join her, and together you blow out the final lamp in the corner of the room. The glow fades, replaced by moonlight pouring in from the open shutter. The moonlight rests on the mosaic floor, casting patterns of silver upon the deep ochres and blacks. The city outside seems to exhale once more. You share a final kiss, gentle, familiar, unhurried. You speak again, not of the day just past, but of childhood memories. She tells you of a time she followed fireflies across a vineyard in Sabinum until she got lost, only to be found hours later by her uncle. You recall how you once climbed a pine tree to fetch a friend's kite, only to fall and bruise your ribs, and how proud you still felt carrying it back. As you lie down on the straw-filled mattress, you pull the linen over your shoulder and close your eyes. You can hear the faint trickle of water from the fountain in the atrium. Its voice is eternal. Sleep comes slowly, not like a fall, but like a descent into velvet. The day was full. Rome was alive. You were part of it. You still are. Rome does not sleep all at once. It drifts into slumber like a grand vessel, easing into still waters. From your resting place, the sounds of the city now come fewer and farther between. The occasional shuffle of footsteps, the distant bark of a dog, the squeak of a cart axle rolling late down a nearby alley. These are echoes, not disturbances, soft reminders that even as most settle into quiet, life in Rome never fully ceases. The linen over you is warm from your body now, and the straw mattress conforms slightly to your weight. Your wife breathes steadily beside you, her hand resting lightly over yours. A small oil lamp still flickers in a distant room, casting the thinnest bar of amber light across the far wall. It dances with every breath of wind that finds its way through the cracked shutter. You find yourself not quite asleep, not quite awake. Your mind turns over the day, faces of those you passed, the texture of the bread, and the scent of pine smoke, the laughter of Gaius's son. It is all there in your mind's eye, vivid still, woven together like threads on a loom. And with it come older memories. Your mother's voice scolding you gently when you ran too far into the forum, your father's stories of military life along the Rhine. Beyond your courtyard, you hear the slow beat of hooves against stone, mounted patrol, or perhaps a messenger riding out under moonlight. The sound is measured, steady, and soon swallowed by distance. The city swallows all sound eventually. Even those who shout at the gods in grief or joy find their voices fade into the layers of stone and time. The scent of the herbs delivered earlier lingers faintly in the air. Thyme and bay, softened now, mingled with the sharper tang of olive oil residue that still clings faintly to your skin. You roll gently onto your side. A loose thread on your linen catches the edge of your thumb. You pluck it carefully and set it aside. The house creaks, a slow, subtle groan of aged wood and plaster shifting with the night's cool breath. You find it comforting, proof that your home lives, breathes, and listens. In the distance, a lullaby begins. Someone, a mother perhaps or a grandmother, sings in a tone so low and slow it's barely more than a vibration. The notes are familiar, not a popular song, but an old one, older than even the empire, passed down not through scrolls but through memory. You do not know the words, yet you know the feeling. It warms you. You close your eyes again. The straw crinkles faintly beneath your weight. Somewhere outside, an owl hoots once. It is answered. Then silence. Then again. A soft rhythm of nocturnal watchfulness. You hear the unmistakable splash of water. The fountain in the atrium has shifted its flow, something dislodged, or merely changed its course with the soft accumulation of the evening breeze. The sound is a little louder now, more like a murmur than a whisper. The sound seems closer in the quiet. Your body is still, but your mind continues its slow drift across thought and memory. You think of the baker's son with his flour-smudged cheek, the old woman who gave you a laurel sprig for luck. You think of the cobbler, still at work as you passed by, humming through cracked lips. The oil lamp in the far room flickers one last time and goes out with a soft pop. Darkness thickens, but it is not fearful. It is a comfort, like warm wool around your shoulders. You hear your wife sigh in her sleep and shift slightly. You do not speak. There is nothing to say that hasn't already been said in silence. You wonder briefly if the gods are watching, not in judgment, but in witness. Jupiter from above, Vesta from within. You whisper a quiet thanks, not in formal prayer, but in thought, for the day, for the bread, for the water, for love. A final wind drifts through the shutter, lifting the edge of the linen just enough to kiss your cheek with cool air. You exhale. The city sleeps, and now so do you, slowly, deeply, completely. The weight of time presses down, but gently, not as burden, but as blanket. In this hour, you vanish into the same quiet that holds the Colosseum in darkness, that brushes through the leaves along the Palatine Hill, that cradles every sleeping child in Rome. You are not lost. You are at rest. You are Roman. The city is quiet now, truly quiet, not the hush before sleep, but the stillness that settles after, the kind of silence that stretches its limbs slowly across every alley, every rooftop, every quiet corridor of a sleeping domus. The silence of Rome is not absence, but fullness, full of echoes, dreams, breath, and stone. You stir faintly, not quite awake, not quite conscious. Your dreams have begun, soft and slow, woven with the images of the day, faces half remembered, the smell of roasting grain, the tinkling laughter of Gaius's child. These things return, not in order, not logically, but in drifting spirals of memory. You see your wife as she was when you first met her, beneath a fig tree, her hair wrapped in a loose green scarf. You see your old dog, long past, curled beside your childhood hearth. Even in sleep, Rome gives you back what you didn't realize you had lost. Outside, a bat swoops past the eaves, nearly silent, except for the whisper of wings in the warm air. Somewhere a door creaks open, then shuts with care. A man returning late from some errand, stepping softly not to wake those within. The ground beneath his feet, those polished stones you walked upon earlier, now cool and echoing. The house is a womb of safety. The night wraps you in its embrace. The gods are watching, if not listening. They do not intrude, but remain like statues above your dreams, fixed, serene, eternal. You shift slightly, and the straw rustles beneath you. Your wife's hand remains against yours. Her breath is deep now, steady. In sleep, she becomes part of the night itself, no longer separate from the city, but one with it. The moon outside arcs slowly higher. Its light spills like milk across the rooftops. Cats slink beneath balconies. Shadows stretch and contract, moving subtly with every shift of cloud and wind. Overhead, the stars burn steadily. Orion, Jupiter, Mars, they keep their silent watch. In a courtyard not far from yours, someone dreams loudly. words escaping their lips, nonsense or prophecy. A baby cries once, then is hushed with murmured song. Then, silence again. The soundscape of Rome at night is like a whispered symphony, each voice barely present, yet together forming a great and ancient lullaby. Within your chest, your heartbeat slows, your breath lengthens, you fall deeper. A thin breeze moves the linen on your body. It smells of olives, stone, and the faintest ash. Somewhere a fire burns low in a brazier. Someone far away sings an old Sabine melody, off-key but tender. They sing not to impress, not to entertain, but to remember. Their voice, too, drifts up to join the stars. You dream again, of fields, of sandals on grass, of the sea. You taste salt on your lips, though you have not left your bed. In your mind, you are sailing to Ostia, watching gulls circle overhead. Your hand tightens once more around your wife's, not in fear, but in contentment. You no longer hear the city. You are part of it now. The street, the column, the river, the arch. These things are not around you. They are you. Your breath mingles with the breath of the Forum, the Senate, the sacred fires still flickering in Vesta's temple. Rome lives through you, and you through it. The hour deepens. Sleep thickens. The curtain of night draws heavier. The last lamp on the block burns low. Someone wakes to check it, then leaves it. Better to let it die naturally. Better to let the night be whole. Above your home, clouds drift over the moon, casting fleeting shadows on the rooftops. The city sleeps, but dreams. It dreams through its people, through you. And you? You dream of Rome. Midnight approaches, but it comes without urgency. In Rome, time folds softly upon itself after dark. The shadows do not lengthen, they settle. They settle in corners of courtyards, beneath colonnades, under arches carved with stories of conquest. The moon, high now, proud in her reign, casts silver over every stone, turning bricks into bones of light. You do not know exactly when your sleep turned into awareness again, but you lie still, eyes open in darkness. Not from discomfort, but as though some part of your spirit has risen quietly to walk the city while your body remains at rest. Far off, a temple bell chimes once, not a call to prayer, but perhaps a marking of time for those few who still move. Priests attending the sacred flame, guards on slow patrol along the forum's edge, midwives tending to new life in backstreet tenements. The night is thick with the scent of warm plaster, damp earth, and the last smoke of extinguished lamps. You hear a whisper of sandals against stone, someone returning home very late, or perhaps never left at all. Dreams come again, but not as fragmented stories. Now they come as sensations. Warm hands pressing grain into a stone mill, the sudden splash of cold water on your neck from the fountain, the feeling of rough linen against sun-warmed skin. Rome sleeps, but it does not forget. Every moment you've lived remains etched into the brickwork, the mosaics, the soil. The city remembers. It dreams with you. A breeze stirs the vines outside the window. They shift gently, brushing the shutter like fingertips. A leaf falls. You hear it land. Your breath matches the rhythm of the fountain. The water speaks in syllables too ancient to be translated, but you understand. You always have. It is the same water that has flowed since your grandfather's time, and before him, and before. In another part of the city, someone stokes a brazier. Sparks fly briefly, then die. A few slaves and laborers still sit near communal fires, eating the last of their bread, murmuring quietly. Even laughter is hushed at this hour. All sounds fall under the spell of the moon. You see your mother in your dream now. She wears the perfume she always did, sweet myrrh and laurel, and her voice, though soft, is clearer than it was in life. She tells you to rest, to be proud, that Rome is proud of you. Your wife stirs beside you, shifts closer. Her breath touches your shoulder. You turn to face her in sleep. You do not need to speak. Your hands find each other's naturally, like roots meeting underground. You drift deeper again, the city wrapped around you like a second skin. Somewhere outside, a child murmurs in sleep. A dog turns in its spot and sighs. There is a sense now that the night is turning, that something imperceptible is passing. The world is exhaling, settling deeper. The weight of the city presses against your dreams, not heavy, but grounding. And above you, the stars continue to burn, silent, steady, eternal. You are still. The city is still, and together you rest. The veil of midnight now draws close, and the city of Rome, wrapped in its ancient stone and flickering memory, becomes almost otherworldly. The last lights in the distant Palatine villas have dimmed. The embers of the wealthier hearths still glow faintly, like the final sparks in a once roaring fire. And yours, a more humble flame, flickers out gently, having fulfilled its duty of warmth and comfort. You do not wake, not truly, but your mind drifts near the shore of consciousness. You hear things faintly, the moan of a shutter caught by the wind, the crack of an olive branch somewhere beyond the atrium. Perhaps it is nothing. Perhaps the house, too, is dreaming. Outside, shadows have stretched to their fullest. The narrow alleyways are darker than ink, and yet the moon's light paints silver edges where stone meets sky. The streets are now left only to the vigilance, Rome's nighttime watchmen, who walk with slow, steady steps, poles tapping the earth in rhythm. Their presence is silent reassurance. The city is watched, even while it sleeps. A whisper of laughter floats from a distant tavern in Trans-Tiberum, the working-class neighborhood across the river. The taverns there never sleep fully. They doze in turns. A few men play dice by the fading warmth of a cook fire. The rattle of bone cubes on the tabletop briefly disrupts the silence, then vanishes again. In your dreams, the city reveals other sides of itself. You walk along a colonnade under the forum, but the stones beneath your feet glow faintly, and voices echo from every column. Snippets of debate, prayer, music. The gods whisper through architecture. You dream of past festivals, the Saturnalia, when garlands bloomed on every door, and even masters wore the caps of freedmen. Your breath has become part of the rhythm of Rome's dreaming. Somewhere in the distance, a sentry calls a quiet word to his companion. A dog howls, low, mournful, not out of fear, but longing. The kind of longing that can only emerge when the whole world sleeps. In a far-off villa, a senator awakes from troubled rest. He pours wine with trembling hands, haunted by omens in his sleep. Elsewhere, a slave girl curls tighter into her thin blanket, her hand clutching a charm hung with tiny bronze bells. The city is still, but not frozen. It shifts slowly, almost imperceptibly, like the turn of the Tiber. Back in your domus, the fountain in the atrium makes the only music. It drips and gurgles softly, never tiring. A moth flutters lazily against a shutter, drawn to a light that is no longer there. The stars outside, framed by the open skylight, seem closer now, suspended just above the roof tiles, clear and unjudging. You roll once in your sleep. Your hand brushes the edge of the mattress. You murmur something, a word with no meaning in this hour but full of emotion. It may be your wife's name, or your father's, or a name you haven't spoken aloud in years. Outside, the patrol passes once more. Their torches bob slightly, painting the street walls with ghostly orange silhouettes. A rat scurries into a crack. The sound of sandals fades. The night deepens its hold. There is no beginning or end to the silence now. Only depth. Only the calm certainty that nothing more must be done, that nothing more need be spoken. Midnight looms. You and all of Rome are ready. The midnight hour crests like a wave over the eternal city. This is not the hour of action. It is the hour of endurance, of the soul keeping quiet company with the stars. Midnight in Rome is sacred in a way not even the temples can replicate. It is the moment when time seems to stop observing itself. The bells do not ring, the priests do not chant. Even the gods perhaps are watching from afar, reclining in thought. You lie in bed still, body soft in sleep, but your mind wanders through deeper layers of night, through memory, through dream, through the quiet heartbeat of a city wrapped in stone and myth. There's a subtle shift in the air. The wind has changed direction. The linens move gently against your legs. The coolness is not unwelcome. It reminds you that you are still alive, still a part of this vast breathing organism that is Rome. A lone torch flickers on the street below. It is not carried. It stands in an iron cradle bolted into the stone. Its flame wavers like a sentinel lost in reverie. Deep in your dream, you stand once more in the forum, but this time it is empty, silent. Moonlight glows on every pedestal, but the statues are gone. The gods are absent, or perhaps they've stepped down from their altars to walk beside you. You feel their presence, not looming, not grand, but quiet, thoughtful. You hear your name, not spoken aloud, but echoed in your own thoughts. You cannot tell if it is the present or the past calling to you. You walk forward. Somewhere a raven caws once, twice, then vanishes into the darkness. Its voice is sharp against the hush. You roll in your sleep, mutter something soft. A hand, your wife's, finds yours again. She is dreaming too. The city seems to breathe beneath you, not in gasps, not in sighs, in rhythms. It has its own pulse, slow and impervious to time. The marble colonnades, the aging frescoes, the damp corners of cisterns, they all hum with age. Not decay, but age. It is different. The Tiber reflects the stars now, not the city. The lights are too few. The river moves slowly, curling past stone and dock, past reeds and rope. A fish breaks the surface once, then silence again. Atop one of the 7 hills, a dog barks. Its voice travels far. Someone answers. A human voice, groggy, annoyed perhaps, but no more comes of it. The city returns to its silence like a blanket being pulled back into place. Your mind drifts farther now, no longer clinging to images of the day. Instead, you sense only warmth, stone, the drift of time. You are not yourself, you are everyone. The boy selling figs, the woman pulling water from the public fountain, the soldier guarding the gate, the old man scratching a poem into a wax tablet in his sleep. You are Rome. A small clay lamp sputters and dies. A spider descends from a beam, unnoticed by all but the moonlight. A breeze carries a piece of straw across the atrium floor. Midnight's tide begins to ebb, drawing you gently with it. Deeper still. The next hour awaits. You do not fear it. You welcome it. This is the hour most hidden from memory. The hour most people will never recall, even if they live it. Rome, too, hides parts of herself at this time, not out of shame, but out of reverence. The marble statues seem to look away now, their expressions softer in shadow. The buildings curl inward. Even the air hushes. You remain asleep, but it is not a deep sleep anymore. It is a sleep at the edge, light and drifting. Your thoughts stir beneath the surface like reeds swaying in a dark pond. Far from your domus, in a cramped insula near the Subura, a mother rocks her infant back to sleep. She hums an old tune, half forgotten even by her. The baby suckles, then sleeps. A cat jumps lightly onto the windowsill, its silhouette visible only by starlight. Beneath them, the street lies abandoned, save for the ash of a dead fire and 2 empty amphora. A trader's barge, long delayed, glides silently into a mooring by the river docks. The men on board speak in whispers, out of habit, not caution. Their breath forms little clouds in the cool air. They tie their ropes and unload nothing tonight. The goods can wait for morning. Closer to home, your courtyard lies still, its fountain now reduced to the softest dripping sound. The water has slowed, or perhaps you've only tuned it out. The stars above shimmer faintly, the sky growing deeper in its blue. Your dream shifts. You are no longer walking the Forum. Now you are a child again, chasing chickens in a dusty street. The wind smells of summer figs. The hands of your father catch you gently by the shoulders and lift you high, and you laugh. The laughter echoes, not in your ears, but in your chest. Then the dream fades slowly, like dawn light retreating behind a hill. Rome sighs. A wind picks up. It rustles the olive trees outside the city, shakes the awnings of closed shops, and stirs the ashes in empty braziers. The city shifts again, not waking, but turning in its sleep. A night bird flutters past the open sky window of your domus, its wing beats so soft they sound imagined. Your wife breathes deep and calm beside you. Her hand has moved again, now resting lightly over your heart. You do not wake. You only know that something in you recognizes the weight of it. That in this gesture there is trust and presence and something timeless. The final breath of this hour begins to pass. The stars are beginning their slow descent toward the horizon. Somewhere east, the thinnest ribbon of anticipation hangs in the sky, an invisible seam where night will eventually yield to day. But not yet. For now, the night still reigns, and Rome, shrouded beneath the wings of sleep and shadow, holds you close within her ancient heart. This is the deepest part of night, the nadir of Roman time. The hour when the city lies in its quietest breath, like a lion sleeping with one eye just barely open. The sounds of day are a distant memory, and even the echoes of early night have long since passed. What remains is the pure, steady thrum of existence beneath everything. The slow drip of water, the creak of old wood, the breath of the city itself. Inside your home, the air is cool now. The clay walls retain a chill that touches your skin where the blanket slips away. You do not wake, but your body responds, curling slightly, turning just enough to shield against the unseen draft. In the alley outside, a mouse scurries across the stones, chased only by its own shadow. Far above, the last torchlight has faded from the streets. Even the watchmen doze now, leaning back against marble columns, arms crossed, heads bowed. Their shift will end before the next hour, just long enough to rest their legs to avoid dreaming. Your dreams have shifted again, not into images, but into sensations. The scrape of a wax tablet under your stylus, the weight of a heavy amphora at your shoulder, the tang of salted fish, the feel of sun-warmed stone beneath your sandals. They are not stories, just fragments. Yet together they are a mosaic of your life. Rome is telling you who you are while you sleep. In the Subura, a lone slave still stokes a kitchen fire, adding just enough wood to keep it glowing until morning. She is old. She has always woken early, even before sunrise. Tonight, she doesn't sleep at all. She watches the coals with reverence. Her prayers are silent, made with her hands, ringing, folding, pressing, because words are not needed. The gods see her work. Elsewhere, by the field of Mars, a dog finds a discarded fig and eats it, then curls beneath a broken wagon axle. Its tail thuds once against the wood, then lies still. You shift again. You dream of water now, swimming in the Tiber with boys from your youth, leaping from worn stones, laughing into the current. You remember the fear of slipping under and the joy of breaking through the surface again. You taste the river in your sleep. The wind stirs the city gently, like a hand brushing crumbs from a table. It slips into cracks and crevices, wraps around columns, stirs the dust atop roof tiles. You hear it not with your ears, but with something deeper. It is not a threat, it is a signal. The night is preparing to yield. A rooster stirs, just once. Not a crow, just the intake of breath. Even he knows the hour is close. The stars glimmer faintly, some already fading, and your breathing, matched to the rhythm of the fountain, deepens again. Rome dreams, and through her you remain tethered to something older than empire, older than stone. You rest, and the hour passes quietly with you. There is a stillness now so complete, it feels as though the entire world is holding its breath. This is the thinnest hour, the borderland between night and morning, an hour that does not fully belong to either realm. It is quiet, not because nothing is happening, but because something is beginning. A murmur beneath the silence, a heartbeat beneath the dream. Inside your domus, sleep holds you, but it is lighter than before. Your ears register the shift in atmosphere, the gentle, almost imperceptible unraveling of night's fabric. You shift beneath the linen, not to escape a dream, but to drift more comfortably through it. In the streets, the air feels different now. It smells of earth, of damp stone, of something fresh. Though no birds yet sing, though no carts yet roll, the city seems to tilt slightly toward the idea of morning. Not the act, just the thought. A single fig leaf falls, fluttering in a lazy spiral to rest on a cold step. Far across the city, a baker begins to stir. He lights a fire in his oven, kneeling beside the embers with practiced hands. There is no rush. He does not speak. His dough is already shaped, lined up on a wooden board, waiting. The fire crackles once, loud in the silence. In the temples, the flames are nearly coals now. A single Vestal slave watches the sacred hearth. She does not blink. She is responsible for light, true light. She adds a slender pine branch to the embers. It hisses quietly. A few sparks leap upward, then disappear. You murmur a name in your sleep, perhaps the name of your father, or a friend long gone, or a place you haven't seen in years. The sound does not wake your wife, but it enters the room like a breeze. The fountain continues to drip, and outside the wind whispers a little louder now, though still gentle. Beyond your window, the stars have paled. Not vanished, just thinned, like chalk washed once with water. A faint gray line creeps along the eastern horizon, barely visible. It is not yet light, but the darkness no longer feels complete. A soldier on the city wall yawns into his sleeve. He leans on his spear, adjusting his stance to keep awake. He does not resent the hour. It has kept him company. Around him, the towers of Rome appear immense in their silence. The city's greatness never sleeps, only changes shape. Dream fragments float like dust motes through your mind. Your mother's hair braided with ribbon, the sweet and bitter taste of mulsum, the sound of sandals over gravel. They dissolve slowly, gently, and now, somewhere deep inside you, something begins to rise. A tension, not unpleasant, an awareness. The knowledge that the day approaches, that soon Rome will awaken. A cock crows, not far this time, but nearby. Another answers from across the rooftops. Then silence again. Brief, respectful. The breath you take now is different. It prepares you, not to rush, but to rise. The hour is not over, but it no longer belongs to night. The blackness is no longer absolute. In the east, the sky is blooming, not yet golden, but edged with silver and slate like the slow peel of night's final veil. The stars retreat gracefully, blinking out one by one as if bowing from the stage. And Rome, this living mosaic of shadow and stone, prepares to lift its eyelids. Inside your home, the linen sheet is now warm to the touch. Your wife stirs faintly, murmurs something unintelligible, then returns to silence. The fountain outside the sleeping chamber reflects a dimming moon, and in its trickling waters the first hint of day whispers through the ripples. Beyond the walls of your domus, the world begins to shift. The baker's ovens now burn brightly, no longer kindling, but roaring. The scent of rising dough seeps into the alleyways. A delivery slave lifts a wicker basket onto his shoulder, stepping cautiously through puddles of night-cooled water. A priest dons his robe by torchlight. His fingers move through practiced motions as he prepares to greet the day with incense, muttering an invocation to Janus, god of beginnings. He is not alone. All across the city, the day's opening act begins with quiet reverence. You lie in that liminal space between dreaming and waking. You are aware of the sheets beneath you, the familiar rhythm of your wife's breath, the scent of olive oil soap lingering faintly on your skin. Your dreams begin to fade now. Your mother's voice, the weight of amphora, the river's tug like waves receding at low tide. Your eyes open slowly. Not wide, not yet, but enough to catch the faint outlines of the room, traced faintly in dawnlight. The oil lamp has long since burned out. The shadows are now blue, not black. The world is reshaping itself. A rooster crows again. This time, it is answered by many. Their chorus is not urgent, but inevitable. The new day has been announced. You sit up. The straw mattress shifts under your weight. Your spine cracks once, then settles. The cool air brushes your skin, and for a moment you pause. You look toward the window. It is still dark outside, but the dark is soft now, alive with suggestion. You are a citizen of Rome, and Rome, your city, is stirring with you. In the forum, the paving stones begin to catch the light, faint and gray. A fig vendor unlocks the bolts on his stall. A beggar stretches from his corner beneath the temple of Castor and Pollux, brushing straw from his legs. The bronze doors of the Temple of Saturn glint faintly. Back in your courtyard, you dip your hands into the fountain's basin. The water is cold, clean, and it awakens your fingers fully. You splash your face. The shock of it brings clarity. This is the moment, not of change, but of return. You've done this before. You will do it again. The light has returned. The first full golden glow brushes the rooftops. The day has arrived, not loud, not grand, but as inevitable as breath. It belongs to the workers, the slaves, the senators, the street poets, the gods, and it belongs to you. You are awake, and Rome, once again, rises with you. And so, the day has come full circle. From the hush of pre-dawn silence to the first golden whisper of morning, we have walked beside you, through dusty forums and shaded atriums, along the banks of the Tiber, and into quiet dreams beneath a Roman roof. We have felt the heartbeat of the city as it pulsed through sandals on stone, through market cries and temple chants, through laughter, labor, longing, and light. This was not a story about emperors or conquests. It was not the tale of Rome etched into marble or sealed in bronze. It was something quieter, something more enduring. It was your day, a single thread woven into the vast, eternal fabric of Roman life. A story without fanfare or fame, but with dignity, with rhythm, with breath. And now, as the new day stretches itself across terracotta rooftops and stirs the pigeons from their nests, our tale gently closes its eyes, not in sleep, but in peace. Thank you for walking this journey, hour by hour, heartbeat by heartbeat. May it stay with you long after the voices fade. And should you ever wonder what it felt like to live then, to rise with Rome and rest in its shadow, you need only close your eyes and remember. Veil, and good night. If you enjoyed this journey through ancient Rome, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. It helps more than you know. Leave a comment below and let us know what time, place, or civilization you'd like to experience next. Your suggestions may shape our next story. Until then, rest well and dream deeply.